Hey everybody, it's Nick, and this time we're going to do something a little bit different. I was wanting to go through and sort of review and look at the brand new D&D book that dropped today, Tasha's Cauldron of all the everything or something like that. That was my plan, just sort of like not spoil it whatsoever, don't look at anything, and go through the book and just sort of react to it in the moment. And I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was wanting me to make that video as soon as I could because he wanted to talk to me about all the cool things. And I said, hey, would you be willing to jump in and sort of break down the book with me and have our sort of first reactions and talk about it and have two DMs kind of going back and forth about what we thought about all the things in it? So I've got my friend Jimmy here. I've mentioned him before. He's the person that I stole the idea from for getting your players to role play in combat better. Of course, he stole it from the Exalted RPG, but that's beside the point. So I brought in somebody else, and we're just going to kind of do a very different kind of thing. This is not a direct-to-camera kind of video like I normally do. Sort of a, I guess, live stream, but technologically, I don't think legally I'm allowed to just stream the entirety of the book, Tasha's Cauldron. So I wanted to just record myself, but my webcam is kind of not great. And so rather than give you some terrible quality video, I said, let's just record the audio of our conversation as we go through the book and have some of our first reactions and conversation about it. And so you can put this on in the background while you're doing something else. It's probably a really long video. Break it down in pieces. I'll try to do my best to put timestamps and the like in the video so it's easier to navigate. But first and foremost, I want to kind of open up and say, I have not been reading much of the Unearthed Arcana that this is pulling from, so this is all very new to me. I've heard a couple of mixed reactions from people about this book. Some people have really, really liked it. Some people really, really not. So I don't know anything about what's in Tasha's outside of, just hearing about tables of contents and leaks and things like that. But I haven't really looked into it that much. So we'll be sort of doing some first reactions here. But first, I just want to say hey to my friend Jimmy. How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Awesome.
It's a lovely night.
It is. We're going to look through some D&D stuff, which is always really cool. I look forward to telling you how wrong you are. Um, but yeah, let's talk about some of the stuff in here. I am busting into this book for the first time. I will say a couple of things about where I am as a DM right now. I don't really care about balance that much. I kind of trust myself to be able to tweak and adjust things on the fly, so I'm not very concerned with, is this thing slightly too strong or slightly weak or whatever. Um, and I am also primarily a player, so I'm not really interested in subclasses because that's something that players get to do. And as a DM, mostly, I don't really care about what the subclasses do until a player says, hey, can I play this? And I go and look at it and I read it and go, yeah, sure, that seems fine. Or, yeah, but let me tweak this thing and make it a little stronger or a little weaker to bring it in line with the rest of the group is doing. So I don't really care about balance that much. And I recognize that everything in this book is pretty optional. So take this with as many grains of salt as you would like. So what is going on in this book, Jimmy? You've already busted into some of it, huh? What parts are you noticing from early on here?
Well, I would like to draw attention to page like 4 or 5 before the book really starts, and it's just about using this book. I really like how they've got 10 rules to remember, right? And it goes over some really basic stuff, but they felt it. I just like that they gave a shout out to spellcasting twice with clarifying casting multiple spells a turn and when concentration works. When other rules are like have fun and remember to round and what advantage and disadvantage means. Anyway, I just thought that was funny that spells need so much clarification.
Yeah, those are some incredibly common things. I even see the occasional like big time YouTuber talking about how like you can't ever cast a bonus that you can't ever cast 2 leveled spells on a turn. And it's like that's not true. That's not what the rule says. And so making a point of like it's the fact that it's a bonus action changes what you can do with the spells as opposed to, you know,
Oh, hang on. There is. I don't believe there is a way to cast more than one leveled spell in a turn.
action surge, kaboom.
Okay, there is one way to cast more than one leveled spell in a turn.
I often hear people cite that you can't do it with like reactions. So, for example, I want to cast Fireball, and a wizard tries to counterspell me. I have heard
Hmm.
people say you can't cast counterspell against that counterspell because you're already casting a leveled spell.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
and one's a
Okay.
reaction, one's an
I
action.
guess
So neither are
that makes
bonus
sense why they
actions.
would write it that way. But see,
Yes.
what drives me nuts, and it was so funny because the first time I think we were both no. It was the first time you DM'd for me in your Gods campaign. And I got in an argument like in the moment about how about casting spells, and it ended up that the player wasn't even going to do this, but he was a Sorcerer, and he wanted to swift action or a swift spell a cantrip and then cast a spell. And you had mentioned how that you can't do that. And I thought that that was the most contrived thing because the whole point of the rule is not to allow you to cast more than one leveled spell a turn. Who cares if you swift spell the cantrip or the leveled spell? But that makes a lot more sense now that I know that okay, there are two important notable exceptions.
Yeah,
That's why they didn't write it that way.
it was a pretty nitpicky thing, and it was one of those like it wouldn't have changed what he was trying to do on his
Mm-hmm.
turn, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
a like if and I wasn't trying to get technical and say no you
Oh,
can't,
sure.
but it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much a technically
yeah.
speaking, if you quicken the cantrip, then you couldn't cast a leveled spell, but obviously you would do it the other way around. Um,
And it turns out he just wanted to make it an attack roll. Like it wasn't even.
yeah.
It wasn't even
It
doing
was
that.
definitely a
Oh
miscommunication. But
man.
that's D&D, isn't it? Miscommunication and not reading how your stuff works. Um, so what do we got here? We got character options early
So
on.
this is the 2 pages of like the race changes, um,
Awesome.
which I thought was like I thought we were switching to ancestry. Like I thought we were getting the whole kit and caboodle.
I think it'll be a while
Um,
before Dungeons and Dragons switches away from the use of the word race. I think it's
I,
pretty baked in.
I thought though, like, because when I first heard about that, I thought that that was like, oh, this is coming in Tasha's. Let's tell you what's coming. Like, I don't know where I
Oh.
first heard that from. I thought it was a done deal. I thought that like this is the future. So when I got to this, I was so disappointed because I thought we were going to see some really cool changes to what race means.
No,
And
I think the
instead,
biggest thing that they're changing is where your ability score increases come from, right?
and that's basically all this is. It's like, look, bro, you can increase whatever ability scores you want. You can change up what proficiencies you get. You don't have to take the common languages. You could choose something different. Like that's all this is. And I really do think of it as like the only reason I would want a rule like this to be in a core rule book is if I got a DM that I didn't trust. Because any DM that I trust would like I could say, hey man, I'm really like want to do this build. I think it's really cool. It's got a lot of flavor. It cannot work unless I have a +2 to this instead of a +2 to this. I think most DMs would be like, yeah, no, let's make this work. Um, but like so like having specific rules for all this stuff is kind of like, oh come on, who isn't playing like this? And I know there are
Right.
people who really like the play by the rules. This is what the rules say. But I'm always going to value uh, game feel and I mean realism. I want to believe that I'm in a fantasy world. I want to believe that there are dwarves out there that are really frail because why wouldn't there be?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. But I will say like we have both been in and around Dungeons and Dragons for a long time. I have been playing for the past 14 years. How long have you been like in and around the hobby?
Not nearly as long as you. No, college for me. So 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I think.
So 8 years, that's still a really long time by comparison to people who are coming in and like literally now there's a pandemic, so might as well do something to hang out with my friends over Zoom, or in the last couple of years with this new edition. And so we've seen a bunch of different editions of D&D and had lots of different experiences. There are people though who go, I guess this is what the rules say, so this is how I have to play, and just giving more options. I know, like good, experienced, player-focused DMs are already doing a lot of this stuff, but I really appreciate them saying it out loud. This is
That's
a
fair.
move that I made in the campaign that I'm running right now, where I have let my players just say, if it says, increase your strength by 2 and your charisma by 1 because you're a dragonborn, I've just said increase something by 2 and something else by 1. You pick what it is. And I think it opens up a lot of interesting race class combos that you wouldn't normally get, and not necessarily for people who are power gamers, but just the sake of like how punishing it can be to not have those higher numbers in your primary abilities. So I appreciate them taking the time to say it.
Now, that all being said, I am a big lover of playing combinations of races and classes that don't mesh well. I love like the idea of the half orc or the full orc wizard. Even back in previous editions where they have like a negative modifier for intelligence. I think that the idea of playing something that I'm going to have less intelligence than if I was like an elf or whatever. But oh man, there's so much character in that, and yeah. So I'm definitely you make a very fair point. It's good that they put this in the book. I was looking forward to it being more, but even all that being said, I do love playing characters that triumph
Against
in
type.
spite of. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I agree. I just think that this is a good move in the direction of saying, you can still do that, but you're not as mechanically punished for going against theme. Because, for example, like if you look at just the racial abilities of a half orc versus a gnome, one of those two makes an objectively better barbarian, right? But now, if you change the stats, now a gnome barbarian isn't so mechanically far behind half orc barbarian. So they're not feeling like they're punished for wanting to do this cool, interesting thing, and I like that.
Very fair. So
I
that's
do
that's all that's
see
on these first two pages, other than changing
changing
subclass.
your subclass, like that is so cool that they're giving a rule for this. I have done this with players before. I have had this happen with DMs. I basically tell my players like, hey, for the first several levels, if you ever come to me and say, hey, my character is not mechanically behaving the way that I wanted it to, um, then I'll just let you change your class. Like, no questions asked, no character change necessary, no in world explanation, just change your class. But I like that they are giving people some rules, especially if they're wanting to change. They're wanting to adapt those levels and, change to the party. I don't want to be a rogue anymore. We need some beef, so I'll be like a frontline fighter. I think it's really cool to give some rules for that to say, hey, this is possible.
Now, this isn't, they are not suggesting any rules for changing class. This is only subclass that they're offering here, but at least it does give you some sort of idea. If you want there to be some sort of cost associated with changing from one subclass to another, it's easier to come up with your own rules for how to change from one class to another. That is a pretty big shift. Um,
It is. It is. But it mentions here the sudden change, and sometimes story beat wise, you change dramatically, and it introduces the possibility, at least, of somebody, um, maybe not being aware they're a newer DM or player, and they think that they're stuck in their choice, but this might open their eyes to, hey, maybe this is possible.
a player in my current campaign is a Cleric Sorcerer multiclass, and he has been tasked by the god that he follows to basically pursue arcane magic over the divine. And he decided that since he's doing a lot of studying, he wanted to be more intelligence based than charisma based. And so he actually asked, can I swap my int and charisma modifiers and put my levels into wizard instead of sorcerer? So I'm a big believer in that type of swap. Obviously, I think anybody will be, it's all about the fun. So whatever's caused people to have fun.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. Should we keep rolling here and talk about the first class? I don't know if we're going to delve into it too much because it's a reprint of what already exists, but we've got the
There is a new
Artificers here.
subclass. There is a new subclass.
Is it going to change my opinion on the
No, it is
Artificer?
not. In fact, you might hate it even more.
Awesome. So to clarify, because I don't think I've made this declaration on the YouTubes yet. I am not wild about the Artificer, purely for thematic reasons. I like the idea that magic items are special and rare and super powerful. 5th edition kind of disagrees. It agrees with the rare part, but not the powerful part. And Artificer kind of throws that out altogether and says, hey, anybody can make magical items all the time. And we don't really give great lore or narrative reasons for why that is, or why they stop working, or why they're not awesome. And so I just really don't like the theme of the Artificer as it is written in terms of how it fits in with my setting. I have no problem with other people liking it. They are wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't personally love it. When I close my eyes and I fantasize about what fantasy is and what D&D is like, what my setting is like. People who create magic items as a hobby really quickly is not part of that. That being said, I did have a player want to play an Artificer, and I said, sure, but let's lean into the alchemy side of it, and instead of you're making magic items, you're making potions that service the same effect. So we found sort of a way to narratively meet me halfway, and that was cool. Why do you like the Artificer? Do you have any valid reasons, or are you totally stumped?
Oh man, this is definitely one of my favorite classes. It might be just below Wizard, which is my favorite. I think it's probably my second favorite class in the game. In terms of so putting aside thematics for just a second, in terms of gameplay, they just have so many options. I love that. So I'm currently playing an Artificer. I'm playing a Goblin Artificer called the Mad Professor, and I love that. In this campaign, we currently have, the wizard just died, but we had a wizard, a sorcerer, a bard, a rogue, the spellcasting rogue, whatever they're called. What are the spellcasting rogues, Nick?
Arcane Tricksters.
There you go. Arcane Trickster and myself, the Artificer. So it was like, we are all utility, no bulk. It's fantastic. And so we have the rogue, and the bard took expertise in stealth. And I was looking at Goblin. I'm like, okay, they get nimble escape, which means they can take disengage and hide as a bonus action. So I wanted to have good stealth, and the Artificer really let me do everything. With my infusions, I can get some. I've got one to increase my armor class, one for my weapon, and then on top of that, when I hit level 6 and I get more infusions, I'm going to grab the Elvish invisibility cloak, whatever they're called. Cloak of Elvenkind, as well as the pickpocketing item gives you +5 to sleight of hand.
Gloves of Thievery, probably.
There you go. Yeah, and so it's just I can do everything. I love that they get spells. I think Infuse item is one of the coolest abilities. I can't remember which YouTuber XP level 3 was complaining about the Infuse item class feature, not Infuse item, magical tinkering.
Yeah.
I love it. Just so much great stuff can be done with that. So I love the class. I love how much utility it brings. Once you can start storing magic and items and giving that out to other people, it just does everything. And I really appreciate that. In terms of theme, and you and I have had this conversation before, but I will rehash it again for your dear audience. I really think of these infusions and everything that the Artificer does is it's just tinkering. And so I love my mad professor who is like just putting stuff together. I am always describing it as completely haphazard. I'm a battlesmith artificer, which means I get my little faithful companion. Well, my faithful companion is a robot version of myself. I call him the other professor. And I describe how it's like super like ratchety. It's always falling to pieces. Bits of it are just left everywhere. It's got an exhaust pipe in its shoulder that's constantly like just smoke comes out of it all the time. And we had a stealth mission today, and I said, well, don't worry, guys. I built this stealth option into the machine, and I grab a potato and I just stuff it in the exhaust port, and now we're solid. It won't make any sound anymore. So just this idea of you have all these things that are barely being held together, and they're powered by not just mechanics, but also bits of magic that you can infuse, just little drops of magic here and there. And the reason why you can only have a certain number of infusions at a time is because they're constantly needing to be maintained. Every time I cast a spell, I describe the gizmo, Fairy Fire. I've got this basically multicolored glitter bomb that I crank a couple times, hit once or twice, and throw it out and hope that it explodes. When I use Cure Wounds, the professor has this gauntlet that he wears, and it's his Ray of Frost is like this little cannon on the top of it. He had Shocking Grasp that he would charge up. He'd get out a wrench and like physically charge it up. And so I just love the theme of Artificers, and I really think that it fits well with the character that I've made. But if you wanted to go for an alchemist, you've already said how well that can fit. Is I'm making all these these potions that make things work. I just feel like more than any class in the game, you can really stylize these guys to fit to who you think your character is. I love this class.
I appreciate that viewpoint. I do. I do really understand and respect the ability to do lots of different things. I really like warlocks because of the invocations. There's so much of that customization and make them exactly how you want them, and they can be very different. And so, I appreciate that. I think we thematically understand and appreciate this class very differently. I also, as you know, I'm not super big on utility, and so all of the, oh man, it can do utility in any capacity doesn't really appeal to me because they're different shades of things I don't want to be doing. And I get to play so little already that I pick my classes very carefully. But cool. So do we want to go through the new subclass? Is there anything in there that would make me change my mind?
No, definitely not. The new subclass is you become Iron Man, so I don't think you'll like it.
Oh,
It's
man.
the Armorer, and so you can wear heavy armor.
Wait, we've seen the
and
armor before, right?
It's in UA. Yeah, it's in UA, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
not. This is the first. As far as I'm aware, I could definitely be a liar about any of this. But every time I
Phenomenal.
looked at armor stuff, it always had UA in the parentheses. Um,
Oh,
but
does
it
it
you
tell you what used to be UA?
no. So since I'm playing an Artificer, I always was Googling the
I
class to get
gotcha.
the class info. And so it would tell me what parts were UA and what parts weren't. I had to ignore
I'm
UA because some
following.
of it was crazy. Some of it was crazy.
Nice.
Um,
That is UA,
so
isn't it? That's one of the reasons why I haven't been up to speed on what all the UA stuff is because for the most part I look at it and go, got it, I see what they're going for here. It's not at all balanced. It's not really trying to be. It's trying to evoke a cool theme and see what people think about it. So I'm going to just hard pass and wait for it to end up in the book. And the stuff that's not any good will end up on the cutting room floor. And the stuff that is good is going to get refined at least a little bit. And make it into the next book. So I usually don't read or follow UA that much. I'm also not like dying for new content. I think there are millions of cool characters to be made just with the stuff in the player's handbook. So obviously I like seeing new stuff. And if I were playing regularly, I would probably be really hankering for new stuff. But as the old forever DM, I am mostly focused on like rule supplements, and some of that is later. But I do want to talk about the Barbarian here and
Oh
these
man.
optional class features. So,
Yes, yes.
um,
I've been dying to talk to you about these.
so I think is this true for most of the classes that they introduce new optional class features?
Everybody except for the Artificer gets,
Perfect.
hey, here's some cool stuff that you could just have, and some of them are like, hey, replace this class feature with this one instead.
So
Um,
we're gonna get ahead of ourselves here, but yes or no? Do you think they've fixed the Ranger with these
I
optional
haven't
things?
gotten there yet.
Ooh,
I was
okay.
on Paladin. I just got to Paladin, and then you
Gotcha.
caught me. So I've not gotten to Ranger yet.
Okay, so we've got Barbarians, optional class features. When you reach 3rd level, and then again at 10th level, you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Okay, that's great. Oh, from the list of Barbarians' 1st level skills. So Barbarians get more skills. In general, I like the idea of having more proficiencies and more skills. Being a D20 based system, D&D can be so swingy, and proficiency is just really nice, especially if you're running for smaller parties. Giving them more access to more skill proficiencies, I think, is really cool because it covers some of those bases. And I think it forces people to start to take some stuff that's maybe a little off the beaten path. And you've got your barbarian who has athletics and,
Intimidation.
intimidation and maybe like perception because everyone needs that. And then this might force like a survival, like, oh, I've got a couple of extra skill proficiencies. Sure, I'll be the Outlander type character. So that's really cool.
I think the value of skill proficiencies is completely in the hands of the DM, just because they're the ones calling for these checks and putting them in situations where these types of checks are important and carry value. Um, I'm ready to be wrong about this, but there are certain classes that get tons of skills. There are certain that are not, and there are feats that can make up the difference. So I personally don't know if Barbarian needs more skills. I don't really think of Barbarians as people who are, good at a lot of things. But I don't have a problem with this. If one of my players wanted this, I'd say, yeah, sure, go for it. But I'm always whiny about martial classes getting stuff because who cares about martial classes? They're all super
They're the
lame.
best. Martial classes are amazing. Everyone
Man, I'll
should
tell you
play
what.
martial classes.
I just got my second attack. I think this is probably the first time I've played a character who's had 2 attacks in one turn, and I'm so excited about rolling my d20 and then getting it to roll it again every turn. How interactive this gameplay will be instead of, if I was playing a wizard where I would
Right,
get
and you
to.
cast a spell and you don't roll any dice. That's true. Um, you did bring up a point that I wanted to highlight here, and you mentioned it earlier about good DMs sort of doing some of this stuff already, back with those first couple pages. And I think that 5th edition, and maybe this is some new
Oh,
context.
let me
Yeah,
put just a slight tag.
jump
I
in.
don't think that if you aren't doing this, you are not a good DM. That
Oh,
is not at
absolutely.
all. It is more if a player says, "Hey, I really want to play this class race combo, but I don't know if I can get it to work out with the roles that I have and the points that I get." I think that very few people would be like, "Heck no, man, screw you, no way you can do that." I think that is something that if any thought is put into it, people believe that, oh yeah, this is possible. It's possible to allow for things that aren't in the rules. I think most people would make that call,
I
not
really
knowing
hope
most people.
I really hope that's true, but I also know RPG Horror Stories is a thriving subreddit, so you never know. But I do think that 5th edition, more than 3.5 and 4th edition, are DM dependent. Like,
Yeah,
a really bad DM can make for a really bad game, and a really good DM can make for a really good game. And that's been true across all editions. But I felt like, especially in like 3.5, because it's such a dense, heavy system, that if you just use the rules, there's sort of some bounded experience because it's such a tight system that even a bad DM, if they just run the rules and build encounters by the rules and do all the checks by the rules, you'll have a pretty predictable outcome. Whereas in 5e, if you have a pretty bad DM, it can be a really rough experience.
Oh, I, 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 I think I agree with that, and I don't really have enough of a thought on there to elucidate. Is
Yeah,
that the
and
right word?
sure, yeah, illuminate, talk good
Something
more.
probably ends with
Um,
8.
so the other barbarian feature, this is going to take 19 hours. The other barbarian feature is that as part of the bonus action used to enter your rage, that's really interesting, giving
This
you
guy's really cool.
a bonus usage as part of like you're doing a rage, and you also, as part of the same bonus action, you get to move up your up to half your speed. So it's instinctive pounce. Um,
I like that because, I mean, this is a 7th level ability. They've been raging for 6 levels, and their bonus action is used to rage every fight, the start of every fight. That's what it does. And this is like, hey, man, you've been doing this for a while. Here's a little bit extra. Because it's like all the rage abilities, like they're, offensive or defensive, but I don't know if there's any movement stuff. Like, as you rage, this thing happens. Um, so
I
I
don't
think
think
that's really
so.
cool. I think it's useful for the barbarian. It gives the player something cool to have as they get higher level. I think that's a really neat ability.
And honestly, like the only usage of it, like I'm trying to think about this from a DM's perspective, does this break my game? It's a gap closer. It's a round one. The barbarian wants to get
Yeah.
from not in someone's face to in someone's face, and this makes that a little more possible. Maybe instead of going straight for the frontliner, they get to run all the way to the backliner and do what they were wanting to do. That makes them a little more mobile, but I think it's cool. Yeah, at 7th level, I think that's a neat ability. No problem with that.
So barbarian gets 2 subclasses in this book. The first one's really neat. I love the thematic of it. The second one is wild, super wild,
So you got
way out there.
Path of the Beast here. It's the same kind of vibe as Totem Warrior, right? You get to choose one of these three things to upgrade.
No. So with this one, Path of the Beast is think lycanthrope, right? You are like
Oh.
becoming part animal, and each time you rage, so you've got like bite, claws, tail. Each time you rage, you can pick something different. It doesn't have to be the same one every time.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So not quite Totem Warrior in that regard. It's you have access to everything. Um, but it's just very animalistic, extremely animalistic.
Oh,
You're not
that's the
attacking
Path
with
of
a
the
weapon
Beast.
anymore. Yeah, yeah. Surprise, surprise.
That's kind of
Um,
cool.
your attacks become magical at 6th level. You can choose to get like swimming speeds or climbing speeds
That
or
is
bigger
very
jumps.
useful. I think that is it's showing up in more and more things. The monk gets it naturally in beast form. The druid gets it both at 6th level. Um, I think it's really cool because it kind of says, hey, regardless of whether or not your DM thinks you should be able to overcome magical resistances, by 6th level, you should be. And I really appreciate that. That is cool. What is this? What is their capstone ability here? Call the hunt. You choose a number of willing creatures you can see
It's
within 30
cool.
feet, equal to your con mod,
Not
and
amazing, I
gain
don't think, but
5
cool.
temp HP for each creature. Oh, and they gain a bonus too. That's pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah,
you're frenzied based on your nearby allies. I like that.
yeah. Just
Cool.
you're the lead wolf or whatever. It's very cool. I love the thematic of it. It doesn't. I don't read this and go like, oh, I gotta play this. But very glad it exists. I think this is a really cool style of barbarian.
Yeah, I'm not delving too much into the numbers of it, just looking at like what it's about, and I would play this. I would play this. I think they're super fun looking. So we got Path of the Wild Magic as well. What
Oh
is this?
boy. Okay, so
Barbarian
this
Wild
is
Magic. Oh man.
yeah, it's wild magic sorcerer, right? But barbarian. So level 3, and don't turn the page just yet. Level 3, you get like, oh, you can sense magic. Cool. And whenever you rage, you get to roll on a wild magic table. But it is not the one that is for the wild magic sorcerer. If you turn the page and take a look at the wild magic table, there's just 8 options, and some of these
Oh.
options are crazy.
Man, all right. Each creature of your choice you can see within 30 feet must succeed on a con save, so you can pick only enemies, or take a d12 of necrotic damage. Nice. You also gain temporary hit points equal to a d12 plus your barbarian level. That's cool. Hit some people, you gain some HP. As I
Wait,
read
what?
this,
What? That's not what mine says. Mine says you also gain 1d12 temporary hit points.
yeah, temporary hit points
Yours is plus barbarian level?
plus barbarian level. Yeah.
I don't. The
Oh,
hardback
do I have a
copy doesn't
different
have
version?
that, and I
Oh.
thought that that was weird because that 1d12 temp hit points doesn't scale with level, and that's bizarre.
Oh,
That makes a lot more
interesting.
sense.
This might be
I wonder if it
a
was a
different updated version or something.
yeah. I bet it is because
Huh.
the first thing when I first saw that I was like, oh, this is going to be super weak because past like
Yeah.
what third level, that's nothing.
Right.
Okay,
Man.
now just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Um, oh, and you get to choose where it is. That's cool. Until your
And you
rage
can do
ends, you can
it.
keep doing it as a bonus
Yeah,
action. Nice. Intangible
3 is okay.
spirit.
It's not great
You get to
unless it
look like a
scales.
flump or a pixie. Phenomenal. I appreciate that. Um, Pierson the 5 feet of one creature of your choice. That you can see within 30 feet of you. Blah blah blah. At the end of the current turn, it explodes. They make a d6 or take some damage. That's cool. That's weird. A bolt of light. I mean, that's most of the Wild Surge table, both in the
Yeah.
PHB and here, right? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. And that's it. So there's a bolt of light shoots from your chest. Cool, Iron Man. Another creature you can see your choice. 30 feet. Constitution save. Some damage will be blinded until the start of your next turn. Yeah. And then again, so some of these are you get this effect and you can keep using it as a
Yeah.
bonus action on each of your turns. That's pretty neat. So you don't just get it the once, you don't know what you're getting the first time you get it, but then later on you
Mm-hmm.
can sort of strategically deploy it. That's cool. A creature hits you, they take some damage. I like that. To your regions, you're surrounded by protective lights. You gain a bonus to AC while within 10 feet of your allies gain the same bonus. Nice.
Right?
That's really good. That's really good. Now I want to be that rogue fighting near a barbarian. That's phenomenal. Get that flanking, get that AC bonus. Flowers and vines temporarily grow around you until your rage ends. The ground is within 15 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies. Whoa! You run up on them and they can't leave real easy. That is very thematic for barbarians. Magic infuses a weapon you're
This is my
holding.
favorite of all of them.
Till your rage ends, damage type changes to force, and it
Mm-hmm.
gains the light and throne properties.
Right?
If it leaves your hand, it reappears in your hand. This is some God
So
of War
cool.
stuff.
Oh my
Wow, that's
gosh.
so cool.
And so every time you rage, you get one of these.
Every time you rage, you roll on the chart.
Yeah, and it's affecting you for the duration of the rage.
Dude, I love that. Is there, with the higher level abilities, is there a way to like roll more often? Because that's
Oh,
the
not more
best.
often. So on level 14, you roll twice, pick
And
the two.
choose. Oh,
Yeah.
mwah,
And if you
chef's
roll the
kiss.
same number,
I
then you
love
can
it.
pick any one that you want.
Wait, if you roll the same
Um,
number,
you pick, yeah. So
you have
if
a
you
twelve and a
roll a
half
d8,
percent chance of just getting to pick the best one?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, is that true? Hang on, math.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. Because then one number is the static, and then the other one is yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
wow. Okay.
The sixth level ability, as an action, you can touch one creature which can be yourself and do one of two things. For 10 minutes, the creature can roll a d3, which is so cool.
Ooh.
A d3 whenever making an attack roll and ability check, and that number is added. So it's kind of like a mini bless. Except it lasts for 10 minutes. Or
Or
roll a d3, the creature regains one expended spell slot, the level of which equals the number rolled or lower the creature's choice. Once a creature receives this benefit, the creature can't receive it again until after a long rest, and you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus.
ooh.
Ah, man, just like I love it's so chaotic. You know,
Yeah.
you've got this crazy wild magic table, you're like regenning spell slots as a barbarian. Like, what even is that? Oh my goodness.
Man, that's yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. I'm here for it.
And unstable backlash, 10th level. Uh, on a failed saving throw, or anytime you take damage, you can use your reaction to re-roll on the wild magic table. And so every time you take damage, you can just keep re-rolling until you get an effect that works for you.
Ooh,
Oh man, I
that's not bad.
love this. Oh, love this subclass. Oh man, so cool. I'm trying to convince my brother, who was playing the wizard and died. He decided he wanted to play a barbarian. He was going to play a stormlord. I'm hoping he plays this because we have a lot of spellcasters. And man, oh man, this is just such a cool subclass.
Oh, for sure. Um, so Bard gets some optional things. There are
Before you
Oh
mention
yeah.
the optional things, this is interesting. All of these spell casting classes that I got to, at least, they get access to new spells, some of which are in the player's handbook. So the
Yeah,
bard, they're adding player's handbook spells that the bard weren't bard spells previously, and they're just like, yeah, no, bard gets these now,
I
and they
was
did
gonna
that for the
ask
other classes
of
too.
your general thoughts on that when we had gotten to it. What do you think about them saying, based on how the game is being played and what we've thought about it for a little while, what we've seen the usage of spells and bards, and how we feel about the state of the game, we have changed some people's class lists and added some new spells on. What do you think about that as a spellcaster?
Um, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is having classes have different spell lists makes those classes more unique by definition. So if we give, like, let's say, so in previous editions, Wizard and Sorcerer had access to the same spell lists, right? They use the exact same spell lists. Um, and in this one, you have unique wizard spells, unique sorcerer spells. And what that has done is differentiated the two classes, right? The sorcerer gets access to whatever their chaos bolt is, or whatever it is, the first level spell that can deal different types of damage. It can chain link to different enemies if you roll a certain way. And the wizard gets access to, they have a lot of unique spells, stuff like maze, right? I think that's a wizard only spell. And so my instinctual reaction is, okay, they if we're blurring those differences, then it means that each class is slightly less unique than they were. Command, right? First level spell, command. I love that spell. I think it makes sense for it to be a bard spell, so I don't think I disagree with what spells they're putting where. But it's like there has got to be some sort of line where obviously if we let every class have access to every spell, that would not be good. I think everyone can agree on that. And if we had every class only had access to one spell list and there was no sharing, that also wouldn't be cool. I don't know where I put that line, where the right answer is. So that's a very long answer to say, it's cool that people get access to new spells. There should probably be some sort of limitations, which there are, and maybe they're in the right place. I don't know. That was a lot of, eh.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. There, you said different spell lists make people unique, and I couldn't help but think about there's like a demotivational poster, and it's a fork that has all of its tines like twisted and bent and screwed up like it's been in a garbage disposal, and the caption is, "Just because you're unique doesn't make you useful." Um, and so I think about like, oh, this class, they're so unique. They have literally only one spell on their spell list. Ooh, how unique are they? I mean, that's bad though. But I think there is value in people having access to different spells. It really shapes them thematically. The fact that clerics don't have access to the same exact spells as a warlock makes them different.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. But I do think, like, looking through this list, there's
I'm
nothing in here.
surprised that these aren't already bard spells, is
Yeah,
really how I feel looking at these.
yeah, and it's probably, that was the same feeling at Wizards of the Coast. They went through on a pass and went, yeah, these should be bard spells, and made that call, evidently.
Now, I could be wrong. I would guess that except for maybe the warlock, bard has the most restrictive class spell list as for a full caster. Between Cleric, Bard, Warlock, Wizard, Sorcerer, I would guess that Bards come in at number 2 for the least number of spells. I'm guessing because they take just a little bit from everybody. They don't
So
have a
it's
core identity like the others do.
so in reverse order, we think it's Warlock, Bard, Sorcerer, Cleric, Wizard. No, Druid is in there.
Oh, Druid. Yeah,
Druid's
Druids are
in
pretty
there.
restrictive too, I bet. I think
They
I
are.
would
I
bet
think they're right around where Bard
Druid's
is.
number 3.
Yeah, and
My
then
guess
Sorcerer
would
is
be
after.
it's Warlock with the least, then Bard, then Druid. I don't know between Cleric and Sorcerer.
Oh,
I
I
think
do.
Wizards
I
definitely
do.
got. Oh yeah.
Clerics have a lot of spells.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of spells. Yeah.
Then yeah, that's the, and I have no idea if that's right, but since Bard has the most restrictive spell list, adding more spells to them, I think, is in the highest risk of crossing that line, because that's kind of the point of the Bard, is they don't have access to the best healing spells that the Cleric has, and the best utility spells that the Wizard has. They're kind of pick and choose from here and there, and they get to pick any spell that they want to learn from any
Right.
class.
Magical Secrets is very useful.
Mm-hmm. So cool. Bards are neat. I want to play a Bard.
Yeah, bards can be very cool, very versatile characters.
So in terms of the features added, so this is, all bards get this. Another use for inspiration being rolled to add to healing. I think
I
is
like
really
that.
cool.
More inspiration uses.
And the other is, and this one they added to quite a few classes. The bards are definitely not the only ones who got this. I think most casters get this. Do you remember at some point they were putting forward the idea of every time you level up, you can swap a cantrip?
Yeah.
So I really didn't like that, because cantrips are supposed to be like, these are the things down pat, and it seems weird to switch them out every level. So what they've gone with, and this is true for I think all the spellcasting classes, is every time you get an ability score improvement, you can swap a cantrip.
Interesting.
And the bard can swap what they have expertise with.
I am immediately curious about rogues. Do arcane tricksters get to, because they get they get more ASIs than a normal person.
Wait, you mean fighters?
Nope, rogues. Fighters get, I think, one more than rogues, but rogues get more than.
I didn't know rogues got extra.
Yeah, buddy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
So they can have more feats. That's neat.
They get to have more feats, more footses.
Okay. That makes sense intuitively. I just never knew that. I never caught that before.
Yeah, those are the only two, I believe, that have more than everybody else, who get them at 4,
8, 12, 16,
4, 8, 12, 16, 19. Yeah. I think rogues also get an extra one at 10 and maybe 14.
Oh, cool! I get 2 bonus ones.
And fighters get a bunch of them.
Oh man, fighters are cool.
Fighters get like maybe 2 extra.
The only pure martial class. I mean, I guess them and the Barbarian is the only pure martial class, but it's like that's the only martial class I really have a ton of interest in, because you can make so many cool options.
Yeah, fighters get them at 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 19.
Jeez.
It's a lot. And rogues come in with 4, 8, 10, 12. So the extra one they get is at 10, and then 16, 19. So they only get 1.
Very cool.
Awesome. Back to this book. I am familiar already with the College of Creation. I've got a player using that right now, and it's sort of in the neat category.
There is a change that I noticed. I'm trying to find where it was that I thought was, hey, I don't think this was in the UA article, because you and I went over this together.
We did.
When your Bard wanted to be College of Creation. And I love this subclass. This is so cool. I love the moat of potential. I don't know why they're like, oh, it's specifically a tiny. We got to classify this thing. It's
Yeah,
tiny and it's intangible and invulnerable. Why are we giving it stats? Like, why can't we just describe this thing? I don't
yeah,
know why it
it
has
is
stats.
weird how vague they are on many things, and then how incredibly specific they are on others. Like, was anyone targeting inspiration beforehand? Was that a thing that was happening? Um, but I digress. So it's a cool class. I think it has a fun theme. Um, there's a lot of stuff that can be done here with bards, and I'm always
I,
down for
I
more
I can't
choices.
remember what I wanted to point out. I'll have to find it later. But this next subclass, Nick, this was the first thing that I was reading and just freaking out about, other than the Barbarian, to be fair. But like freaking out, wanted to talk to you about. Can't wait to hear your first impressions on this
All
guy.
right. Um, Eloquence. Ooh. So this is something that's interesting. Before I really get into this, I'm
Sure.
interested in seeing how well this class is it designed for only the actor type player who is going to say the right thing at the right time, or could anybody pick this up and feel like they were playing that silver-tongued expert? Um, Silver Tongue right away, you get kind of a rogue-ish feature where you're making a charisma as a perception or deception check. You get to treat a 9 or lower as a 10. I love it.
That's awesome. That's
It's great.
so cool.
Third level, sure. You are really good at this. You have a Silver Tongue.
That is so early to get an ability
It
that
is
crazy.
very early, but it's basically saying like as soon as you select this college, you are good at persuasion or deception. And not even you're good at it. You can't be bad at it. You can't be bad at it. And I appreciate that.
And I think this is one of those abilities where it is completely in the hands of the DM how useful this is, because it is so like what a DM allows for in terms of how NPCs can be convinced of things. And what is possible, what is up to a roll, what is impossible, what has a DC of 50 in order to convince someone to do something.
Sure.
A DM that I played in, playing Exalted, not D&D. I always felt as if every situation I was put in, it didn't matter what argument I made, what I did. The NPCs believed one thing; they were going to continue to believe that thing, and you couldn't really do anything to affect any of that. And having something this powerful would be useless. It wouldn't have done me anything because it didn't matter what the dice said. Whenever the DM decided this was a story beat, that was it. Whereas on the other hand, I've got my special social system. This would be nuts, right? Like depending on how much power the players have with these rolls, being able to guarantee that you're always going to roll a 10 is pretty crazy. So it's just completely in the hands of the DM.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things with social interactions because, in combat, it says the AC is 16, the player rolls a 16 or higher, they hit the armor class. There's nothing to really think about there as a DM. But
Yeah.
when you're
Hmm.
trying to think through what do the orcs want and what do they think of you and what arguments do they think are reasonable, it becomes very subjective. And
Yeah.
that's where that good DM thing comes in. Are they willing to kind of roll with what their players come up with? That's cool. Um, yeah, you can spend Bardic Inspiration, reduce a saving throw, also at third level. That's great.
That's
Um,
so good. Like how many saving throw reduction abilities are there?
there's a handful
Um,
here and there, but they're
yeah,
not
and
tons.
that is
Yeah.
something you can use a lot. Like that's a breaded, like you can use so easily bonus action and then cast a spell.
Well, you only
I'm
have a
going
couple
to.
Bardic Inspirations. At third level,
That
you're
is
gonna have
true.
three, maybe four, typically. And that's about all you've got. So you're not using it all the time, but you could definitely set up some kind of a combo. And it's before the start of your next turn, so you can't benefit from this. Um,
Oh, did I read that wrong?
is that what? Do we see that?
It makes before the. I mean, yeah. So you can use your bonus action first, inspire it to
Oh,
be
touche,
bad, and then
touche.
cast a
I hadn't
spell.
thought of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Very
So
good
that
point.
means if I'm a College of Eloquence bard and I have access to like 8th level spells or 6th level spells, I mean, I'm dominating person, and you have a pretty decent chance to fail. You better hope you've
Well,
got
especially because by the time you
legendary
can cast that,
resistances.
you're using a D10 or a D12
Yeah.
for your
Mm-hmm.
inspiration die. So you
Mm-hmm.
could have a really, I mean, if you subtract 8, 10,
Yeah.
12
Mm-hmm.
from a saving throw, that's pretty crippling, no matter what your
Yeah.
bonus is. That's great.
That's and oh man,
That's
so
big.
that's crazy powerful.
Super good ability. I really like this.
This next one is great too. Oh, I love this subclass.
Wow. Okay, so if a creature uses the bardic inspiration you have given them and they fail at that thing, they use it for an attack roll or a saving throw or whatever, and they fail at that thing, they don't expend it.
So you always like if you're
It's
like, man,
always useful.
there's no way this inspiration. I'd have to roll, maximum. You're gonna do it anyway because even if you fail, you
Eventually.
still get to keep it. Oh my
And like
goodness.
and there is the consequence of like, listen, if you fail your saving throw, you still failed your saving throw, but there's the consolation prize, right? Of you didn't burn your inspiration and fail that thing. I love that. That is great, especially
Oh,
because I
so
think it is
great.
common. I don't know if its rules is written one way or another, but I definitely rule it in a very player heavy way, where people will make you, do you know the outcome or not before you use your inspiration? I think there are people who say like you have to use your inspiration at the start, like before you even roll. You have to choose are you going to
Hmm.
use your inspiration or not. I think that's really mean. I usually tell my players after they have rolled, I will, before I say success or failure, I will tell them, listen, you are in range for your inspiration to make a difference. I tell them that might only be one. You might be one away, or you might be six away, or eight away, or whatever the maximum is. But I will tell you if you're not even close, or if your inspiration could be useful, so that they never feel like, oh, cool, I rolled max on my inspiration. Nope, still failed or missed the attack or whatever. That's a terrible feeling, and this goes a long way towards helping that out, and I really appreciate it. So nice work, Wizards.
You did good.
You done good. Choose some creatures. They can understand you. Oh, cool. Yeah, universal speech. I really like that. How many times do you, as an adventuring party, run into like that group of gnolls and all they speak is gnoll and you only speak common, and so you have to murder them when maybe you could have interacted with them a little bit. I think this will also mean, as a DM, I read this and go, ah, great. All those combat encounters that were like literally just straight up combats. Now this player is going to want to talk to those trolls, and I'm going to have dialogue ready for those trolls. And I was just going to fight, but I knew going into it none of the players spoke giant, so it wasn't going to be a big deal. But no, this guy can speak everybody. And so there's no saving throw or anything. You just get to understand um, a number of creatures equal to your charisma mod. Yeah, this is cool.
I
This is
do
cool.
like, and this is something that I saw a decent amount of in this book. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of any level to use it again.
I
I
love that.
love, yeah, it's like I've got this ability with limited uses, and I can always use it that number of times. But once I'm out, I can expand the spell slot of X level. Even if it's just first level, I love that it's like, it is a cap on using abilities, but at the same time, like a higher level player, they can just use this because they're not worried about their first level spells as much. I love abilities that do that for casters, and so I think there's quite a few of those in this book, and I really
I
like seeing those.
I often use hit dice for that kind of thing in homebrew
Mm-hmm.
mechanics. Like you spend a hit die to gain access to this thing or use that again, or
Mm-hmm.
um, so I because it's sort of your essence is getting damaged, or like maybe you lose some HP as a result of that hit die or whatever. But yeah, it's another resource in the game of resource management that's happening. I think it's really great.
Okay, this next one, Nick.
All
Dude,
right.
this
The
subclass
power
is
of your
wild.
eloquence can now spread to someone else. Great. When a creature within 60 feet who adds one of your bardic inspiration dice to its ability check, roll saving throw, blah blah blah, and it succeeds. So if somebody near you uses, well, within 60 feet, not really near you, someone on the battlefield uses one of your bardic inspirations and it succeeds, you can use a reaction to encourage a different creature, giving it bardic inspiration without expending any of your uses. Oh my goodness. You can use. Does it cost a reaction? Does it cost a
Cost
reaction?
reaction, and there's a limited number
All
of
right.
times you can.
Okay. Okay. Holy cow! You could just chain react inspiration all
So
through the
if
battlefield. I love
if they
this.
fail,
They
it's
don't
fine.
lose it.
They still have it.
Uh
If
huh.
they succeed, somebody else gets it. That's wild. Oh, I love it.
So
So
this
great.
whole subclass seems to make inspiration really useful, really dependable. That is your thing as a bard mechanically. Like obviously thematically they're doing lots of different stuff with it, but it is really making your inspiration useful in lots of different ways, which I appreciate, and reliable in lots of different ways, which I also appreciate. So I have no complaints about this class here.
So great.
Looking at cleric stuff, nothing in their new spells strikes me as something they shouldn't have. So,
I did think about, so Power Word Heal is not as good of a spell as, I think, is it Mass Heal? Whatever the ninth level cleric healing spell is, where it's like you get 500 hit points divided up. I think the biggest thing is Power Word Heal. It only targets one person. You basically heal them up to full, and I believe they use their reaction to like stand up and stuff like that. That is a bard only spell. And this is, I think, a great example of why I'm kind of iffy about adding these spells, because the bard doesn't have access to the craziness that is Mass Heal. I think that, am I getting that name right? Is it Mass Heal, the
it is
ninth level
mass
cleric spell?
heal.
And so, like a cleric, Powered Heal technically does things that Mass Heal doesn't. But I think Mass Heal is so much better that really it is the ninth level heal spell. And I think that it's cool that bards have their own personal ninth level spell. This is a bard spell. No one else gets to learn this. It's a bard looking at one person and saying, "Hey, man, you're going to be okay. I got you." And giving that to the cleric, I feel it takes a little bit, just a tiny bit, away from the bard, and doesn't give the cleric anything much because they already had a more powerful spell to work with.
So I think they function a little differently. So mass heal, you get 700 hit points, and you can divide them up as you see fit with anybody within 60 feet. And also, people healed by this spell are cured of any diseases and any effect that makes them blind or deafened. But power word heal, you point at someone. They don't have to be dead. You just point at someone, um, and they regain all of their hit points. So,
But no one
ob-
has 700 hit points.
absolutely, it's
So
objectively less
yeah.
healing for the team. But
Hmm.
it also, if the creature is charmed, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned, the condition ends. And so, being able to say, you are, let's say there's like a, psychic scream situation. The barbarian has literally too low of an intelligence to unstun themselves. This gives you the ability to say you are no longer stunned.
But
Um,
doesn't greater restoration do the same thing?
does Greater Restoration remove stunned?
I believe so. I think greater restoration takes care of just about everything. I could
It
definitely be wrong.
should, but I don't think it does.
Really, really,
It
really. Let
says
me.
undo a debilitating effect, but then it says reduce their exhaustion by level by one, or charmed, petrified, fix a curse, reduction of ability scores, reducing max hit points. So, no, it doesn't fix stunned or paralyzed or charmed.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
There's got to be a spell that does charmed, right? There's got to be a cleric has access to.
I
Anyway,
don't know off the
so
top of my
what
head.
my argument would be is going into a fight, not, you're preparing your spells for the day. In what world, and I'm sure there is one, but in what world are you going to think I could either heal the entire team from like mid health to full, easily, probably more than that. Get everyone from like 1/3 to full or a quarter to full. Or I could save one person. I just feel like Power Word Heal is very, very, very niche. And that makes sense for a bard. It makes sense that the bard gets the super niche heal spell that saves one guy really well, and the cleric's like, no, 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 everyone's now alive. Um,
There's
but
a
this is such a little point. I know I'm arguing it really hard. It's such a little point. I don't mind the cleric having this. I think if a cleric really wanted this spell, I would say, yeah, that's not a big deal. You can have it. I would probably make this argument, say, how do you feel about that to a player? Um, but yeah, no, it's not a big deal. This is not the be all end all. I don't hate Wizards of the Coast for doing it, but I do feel this takes away a little bit from what makes the bard special, taking away one of their unique spells.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal argument. I completely agree, and I also don't care. So
Fair enough.
that's sort of where I'm at. Like, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, doesn't really matter. But it is a well-reasoned argument. Yeah, you get this harness divine power. You can burn channel divinity to regain some spell slots. I like that. Having different ways to regain spell slots. I don't feel like outside of really low levels, I don't feel like spell slots are generally that much of a problem because most people's adventuring days are very short. But again, I also play bad guys who have basically infinite spell slots. So there's that. Cantrip versatility. We talked about that. I love it. Blessed Strikes. Replace Divine Strike or Potent Strike. I love that. Basically, I love all of the optional class features or
Yes.
variant class features when that
I'm a
artifact
huge
come out.
fan. I'm
Giving yourself
upset
more
that.
ways to
Oh, sorry.
customize is phenomenal. You're upset
Very
that what?
upset the Artificer didn't get any of this. Just because it's a newer class doesn't mean I don't want more options.
Oh, I'm
Wizards
fine with it.
unsubscribed.
I'm
So
I'm totally
upset.
fine with it. I don't really like Artificer, so I don't really care if they get shafted.
Do you mind if we pause for just a minute?
Sure.
Thanks.
Quick pause there just to get back in the stream of things, sort out all the technical stuff, but we are back here looking at the cleric. I'm not nothing from any of this cleric stuff is really jumping out at me as incredibly sexy. I think most cleric subclasses are usually not that unique outside of their channel divinity. I'm sorry, cleric players. But because I mean this is true of most full casters, right? Their power comes from their spell list. Their power comes from the
Yes,
fact that they have
absolutely.
lots of spells. And so you look at their domain spells and you go, okay, cool. And those are the major changes. Obviously, their channel divinities are usually very thematic, but outside of that, they get basically the same 8th level feature. Sometimes they get like a flavorful first level ability, they get channel divinity, and then not that much else.
So I will say the peace domain.
Mhm.
And we had talked about this right before we started the recording that I wasn't super into either of the clerics. Looking at this again, I'm realizing, oh man, I did forget about this. Um,
What
they
do you like about them?
get well. So they've got this really neat. I mean, the peace domain is built around one core ability, and it's actually their first level ability. It's not their channel divinity. And so at first level, as an action, you choose a number of willing creatures within 30 feet of you. This can include yourself, equal to your proficiency bonus. You create a magical bond among them for 10 minutes. While bonded, any creature within 30 feet is within 30 feet of another. The creature can roll a d4 and add the number to an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. So, it's like a mini bless, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Protective bond at 6th level. Any creature who is affected by this bond, if they're about to take damage, any other creature in the bond within 30 feet can use their reaction, teleport within 5 feet of them, and take all of the damage instead.
Wow.
There is no limitation to how often this can happen.
Wow. Man, talk about repositioning and support and protect. That is really
Mm-hmm.
cool ability.
And then at
Um,
17th level, it increases to 60 feet, and they have resistance when they teleport and take damage for them. They take half damage instead.
that's awesome. Yeah, just you get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it buffs the whole squad. And that's really what
Yeah.
clerics are about. Um, We mentioned this, and I just wanted to highlight the fact that you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. I think that's
Yes.
incredibly good design because it
Hmm.
is a scaling, predictable, steady rate, controlled rate kind of ability, as opposed to most of these things in the past have used your a primary ability score, your casting
Yeah.
abilities
Hmm.
modifier or whatever, which is pretty stagnant. Like it doesn't increase that much. People rush it to 5 as quick as they can because that's really important, and then that's it. Sometimes, if you're rolling for stats, your DM is a pretty generous stat array or whatever, you've got +5 by level 4, and then you're done. Like, you
Yeah.
never increase it again. So
Hmm.
you've hit your maximum at level 4, and it stays that way forever, as opposed to, um, it increases at 2, and then 3 at 5th level, and 4 at ninth level, and so on. I think that's a way smoother scaling. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Hmm.
So we're going to see
I,
that a
I
lot in this
wish
book.
it almost makes me wish that we could see a lot of the abilities either powered up or maybe it's like one or two plus your proficiency bonus, but give that to some of the abilities that already exist. There's a lot of abilities that really don't need to be, your charisma mod times a day, minimum one. It's like, come on, that's five already. Like
Yeah,
I'm maxed out at level 4.
yeah. I definitely, as my fix for Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter is instead of it's -5 +10, this is a pretty common fix online in a lot of places. It is minus your proficiency and plus double your proficiency. So it scales a little more smoothly and is better late game and not crazy overpowered early game.
Yeah.
Um,
There's one more domain. I'd
yeah,
forgotten it was
Twilight.
there. Twilight. Talk about amazing. 300-foot dark vision.
It's pretty good.
That is, oh man, that is like Drow got nothing on that. You could share it with people. They get the ability. Their channel divinity is really cool. You get this 30-foot sphere of twilight around you. Gives people temporary hit points. You can stop people from being charmed or frightened. You end up being able to fly, and eventually, your 17th level, that sphere of twilight. What is it? They
You
get
get
half
half
cover.
cover.
Well,
That's great.
super cool.
Half
Really
cover is
thematic.
plus
I
2
like that
AC,
one a lot.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, cool. So some neat cleric options can be very thematic, super cool in there. I would be interested in seeing what um, starting to build a party of pacifists, and you've got like an Oath of Redemption paladin and a peace cleric, and
There's a monk class that's like
yeah,
that
Way of
as well, I
Tranquility or
believe.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think you could have a party of like pacifists, and it wouldn't actually be toxic. I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Druids. I'm just looking over the spell list here, seeing if there's anything weird.
Revivify
I
being
noticed
added
that
to Druid.
too. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like it. I don't
Really?
actually like
So
it.
what
No.
reviving spells other than the weird one that they have access to? They've got the one where you come back as a different race. What is that
Oh,
spell?
reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other than reincarnation, do druids have access to reviving spells?
Let
I
me
feel like they got
check.
to have at least one.
Let me check my spell book. Um, let's see. We get a little. They don't have raised dead. They don't have. They have true resurrection at ninth
Okay.
level.
Okay.
Um,
And that's it.
yeah. Okay. So I'm not wild about revivify as is. Um,
Just the spell on its own.
just the spell on its own.
Why is that?
Because the undo button is it feels kind of cheap. I played in a game, a DM in a game where there were two clerics, and man, and not even really trying to be that aggressive, but just because of
Mm-hmm.
the players and their brilliant tactical choices. There might have been 10 player deaths in the whole campaign. Now, granted, it was from 5th to 20th level. It was a big, long campaign, but there might have been 10 player deaths. I don't think a single one stuck. Not one of them actually remain dead. And I include the critical role rule where you have
Yeah.
to roll a wisdom check as a part of Revivify. And so I don't love that it's just like, hey, it just works. It costs a 300 gold diamond, which I guess if you're being really smart and stingy as a DM, you can restrict their access to that, but they're basically trying to buy them as often as they can. Um, and I don't know that I think of a druid as somebody who has, like that control, the power over life and death. I don't know that there's somebody inherently. I think I would like to see this in a subclass. If druids get, if subclass
Mm-hmm.
spells, I would like to see, maybe a druid of that. But it being cleric and paladin exclusive spell, Revivify, I think makes more sense. I think those are the healer types, the resurrection-y types, and paladins don't get it until way later, like ninth
Yeah.
level maybe. But at what is that? At fifth level, being able to say, oh, this character died a permanent death. Their soul has departed from us. They have gone on. There's no life left in your boop. They're fine. Um, I'm not wild about that as a mechanic. I think it sucks a lot of oomph out of character death to the point where it's like, well, let's just do we. I guess if we're gonna not have character death matter. That being said, if you're in a campaign without a cleric, all of a sudden death is back on the table. But that goes
Yeah.
away with a druid. So I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would have druids have access to resurrection magic outside of the true resurrection they get at ninth level. Like if you're an ultra powerful scion of nature, okay, but regular old fifth level, here's a revivify. I don't know how I feel about it.
I've always seen, and I don't want to drag this one on very long, but I have always seen Revivify as different from the other resurrection spells. I think of Revivify as resuscitation, right? It's like their heart has stopped, their brain is dying, but there's still a tiny bit in there. That's how I've
That's
always
fair.
thought of Revivify. That's why it's got this like you literally have 60 seconds. All right, you got 60 seconds to get to this guy. Their spirit is beginning to detach from the body, and you're like, nope, stay. That being said, I have never had. I think the cleric sorcerer, now wizard, in my current campaign. He's the first cleric I've ever had it in any group that I've run for. Because it turns out people don't like clerics because they're wrong. Uh, and
People are
so,
wrong, not the clerics, just to clarify.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes, no,
definitely.
clerics are great. I love
They are.
clerics. They're full casters. What could you dislike about that? But
Sorcerers.
yeah, so I'm big fans of Revivify, and I'm okay with druids having it with the idea that it's different from other resurrection. But
Fair.
like I said, I haven't had that problem.
I,
Looking forward though, this second, I hope I didn't just
no, no, no.
cut you
I was
off.
about to jump into this. Wild
Okay,
Companion is very interesting.
so great. So because everybody always plays what is it? Is it
Moon
Moon?
Druids, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the wild shape is so different when you're not a moon druid, and it's lovely to have other things to use it for. Being able to create a familiar that's not permanent, like a wizard's familiar, so you're not stepping on the wizard's toes, or anybody else who gets them. It's not just wizard. Uh, but being able to like, okay, I'm gonna create this temporary familiar, summon this fey creature to scout for me, and I can cast spells through it and all this stuff. Fantastic. I love it. Definitely want any druid who I ever run for from now on will know, hey, this is this ability in this book. If you want it, you've got it. Super cool.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It's another cool usage. You hit the nail on the head. The cantrip replacement, also very cool. Circle of Spores is in here as well. This has been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's a it's cool. Like it's there's not much I can say about some of these things. Again, I don't play enough to like really get hyped about player facing mechanics generally, unless and
I
until
do
I'm building a character.
love. Yeah, very fair. I really get into this stuff because I love building uh, types of like archetypes. I love building archetypes in my head, and subclasses really help me get excited about that sort of thing because I'm like, man, I never imagined playing a character like this. That was one of the things Artificer did for me. But Circle of Stars and Circle of Wildfire, the other two subclasses in here, are both really cool. Circle of Stars is, and both of these again, let's give wild shapes more stuff, which I'm a big fan of. Circle of Stars gets Starry Form. It's their second level, one of their second level abilities. Their first one is cool. You get guidance, you get guiding bolt. You have a star map. That one felt kind of off thematically for me. But Starry Form, when you take a wild shape, you could turn into like a, almost like a spectral vision of the sky, and you've got constellations shining on your body, and you can choose, and I do so love being given options, between three forms, where you can either get a bonus action attack every round as you fire a luminous arrow. You can, whenever you cast the Chalice, the Chalice is another constellation. Whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points, they gain a different creature can restore hit points. Or the Dragon, which gives you better odds on maintaining concentration on saving throws. So I just think that's lovely. And they get buffed. The numbers go up. And at 10th level, the numbers go up. And then if you're in dragon form, you have a fly speed of 20. Super cool. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then you got the Circle of the Wildfire for all of the druids who said, you know what? What if instead of loving the forest, we burned down everything that wasn't the forest? They notably do not have access to Fireball here, which I'm okay with. Insert my rant about how Fireball is a 5th level spell, masquerading as a 3rd level one. But yeah, I think it's super cool. Everyone wants to play a Pyromancer, right? And so that's why you have those subclasses always popping up. And I think it's cool to give that like elemental nature kind of thing for druids as well. They can burn their wild shape summoning a spirit that has different abilities and stuff to the normal thing. Again, that different use of wild shape, big fan. It's got a stat block in here for what you can what it can turn into. So just a lot of cool stuff to do with that bonded spirit. Some of their class features, improve your bonded spirit. So instead of you wild shaping into something, you have to summon something. And I think summoning is something that is generally really difficult to execute in 5th edition. It seems like this is taking a real stab at it, and I appreciate that.
So when I looked at Fighter, I got really excited. I was hoping that Echo Knight was going to be in here. It is not.
It is not. That is a Critical Role
didn't get Echo Knight
subclass. That is not.
Wait, that's from Critical Role?
Yeah, bud.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did it? What?
What do you mean what? It's in the not Exandria. Their new campaign book. It's their new campaign book.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it is. I don't know if it's first or second party, because I think Wizards did have a hand in its creation.
Oh, I thought Wizards posted Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. I thought that was one of their books.
Yes, it is. It is an Explorer's Guide to Wildemount is one of their books, but so it's in that book. It's not in this one.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, it's a Critical Role.
When I saw it, I thought it was UA when we were going over it.
No.
I love new fighting styles.
Yeah.
Big fan of that.
Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if these appear in other subclasses or it's just fighters get these?
Yeah, so there are new in the other martial classes there you do see some of these pop up. They've got new fighting styles. And one thing, if we get there when we get to Paladin, I've got the biggest of gripes. I'm so angry.
Amazing.
But
I love Paladin's favorite class.
Oh man, I'm angry at Wizards for what they've done.
Blind fighting.
But blind fighting's super cool.
Super useless.
What? Dude, you can play a blind monk now. If you have blind sight 10 feet, I can play a blind monk and not actually suffer any penalties.
You'd have to be a fighter, not a monk. But or multi-class. But yeah, you get blind sight within 10 feet, but how often are you really fighting in complete total darkness or whatever, as compared to how useful the other fighting styles are? I think this is just one of those, if you put, like, obviously if you want to make a specific character class, this can work. Um, but I think it is less useful
I think
than
it
other
is more
things.
powerful in a very narrow band
Okay,
than the other
yeah,
fighting styles.
that is fair. Um,
I
yeah,
don't like interception, just simply because this
steps on
is
the
one
white.
of those. Uh, it doesn't scale well. It's one you can reduce the damage of an attack that's hitting someone other than you by 1d10 plus proficiency. Super great at early levels, pretty trash at later levels
Yeah,
when you're giving up your reaction.
oh, that's a good point.
So that I'm upset with. Really cool fighting style. Love it. If I had a player who wanted to take this, I would boost their ability. Are you looking at superior technique or are you looking at something else?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So no longer need a feat for it. Now you can just do it.
You get to learn one maneuver of your choice from the Battle Master archetype. That's a fighting style. Amazing. You get 1d6, and you regain the use of it short or long rest. So you get a maneuver once a
Mm-hmm.
short rest. I love that. I think the maneuvers are super cool.
Yeah.
I really like them. Thrown fighting weapon.
That makes me excited. I
Yeah.
love the thematics of throwing tons of
It's
you're like throwing daggers out there, or hand axes or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's the archery fighting style, but for thrown weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. Well, it's +2 to damage and not +2 to attack, but it makes you better at, a guy who's just like, I'm gonna be a spear thrower, javelin thrower, and that's like a thing. You can draw the weapon that has a thrown property as part of the attack. Like, that's phenomenal. And then unarmed fighting, like you can actually be a brawler boxer without being a monk. Great.
Yep. And it
This should have
also
always existed.
makes your grappling better, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. You can actually be like a tavern brawler for
Yeah,
real,
I
without
definitely
being a monk.
have a character that I've been wanting to play, where I play a strength based halfling. I would definitely pick this unarmed fighting, get tavern brawler and grappler, and I just am like buffed up on roids and like, you messing with me, punk? And am a halfling. Oh man, I've wanted to play that character
I
for a
love it.
while.
So fighters don't get the cantrip versatility that the casters get, obviously, but they get martial versatility, which lets them swap out a fighting style for another fighting style or a different battle master maneuver anytime they
Yeah,
get an ASI, which we've discussed is quite often.
yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I like
I
that.
I love being able to exchange fighting styles. There's no reason, right? No like thematic reason why a fighter would have to be completely boxed into one for the entirety of their character. This isn't
Yeah,
like a wizard specializing in a school of magic. This is what I'm most comfortable. This is the way I fight.
yeah.
That can change, and I love letting them change that. I think that's really cool.
Um,
New maneuvers is really nice.
some new maneuvers, yeah, just more options.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing anything right now that makes me, sets my hair on fire, if I had any hair. Um,
I do like quick toss.
quick toss, bonus action, ranged attack weapon. Um, if you hit, roll it. Yeah, okay.
So it's a
Just grab
bonus
something, throw it.
attack, right? You get
Yeah,
an extra attack. It does
that's
extra
nice.
damage, but yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that
Um,
goes in with that like spear thrower, the
hmm
thrown weapon
hmm
fighting build. I like that. Grappling strike is also cool.
hmm
Um, get to grapple, you get to actually do anything because normally you're kind of stuck there. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The archetypes. I get to lose some followers here over my
Uh-oh.
thoughts.
Can I
Um,
say one thing before
yeah.
you
Say
say anything?
anything.
At least I get another subclass, or at least we get another subclass that's int based. We don't have enough love for the intelligence
I fully agree
stat.
with that.
Something
Intelligence need to
else
be
that
improved.
scales with
My
it.
my improvement to intelligence is you get more skill
Yes,
proficiencies
make
based on.
skill scale with
I love it.
intelligence,
I love it.
please.
In contrast, list of things that I love, this is not on it. So I personally Man, people are gonna hate me so much. I personally don't love psionics in D&D. I'm not a fan. Again, thematics kind of issue. When I close my eyes and think about fantasy, Tolkien is a massive influence for me. And so I can't picture Aragorn wading through this sea of goblins and lopping heads off, and then all of a sudden Professor X is bananaing people with his brain powers. Like, those do not gel for me fantasy wise.
Oh man.
And so this is the Psi Warrior. There's several psionics in this book. I personally have no interest in them whatsoever. Um, I don't know what I would do if a player said, "Hey, could I play this?" I would probably ask them what they thought was cool about it and try to change the fantasy a little bit to make it fit better in my brain, while leaving the mechanics mostly untouched. But yeah, I don't love psionics in D&D. Do you feel very differently?
I don't have a problem with it. I totally understand people who I get that viewpoint. I think it doesn't fit in Lord of the Rings. I think my view of, I mean, obviously I love the Artificer, so my view of what fits well into my fantasy is broader, which isn't a good thing or a bad thing. I think this is a cool class. I think it can do cool stuff, but I don't see how rebranding it would probably be pretty tricky, um, especially because there's already a magic-based fighter. I think it'd be stepping on toes to do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not looking to change your mind on that at all. To each their
Great.
own.
I do like some of the look of the Rune Knight, just the different options, the different runes you can pick. There's again, we'll say it over and over again. We
Yeah.
really like customization. We really like
Yep.
options. We really like choices. Invocations. I'm a big fan.
The
Um,
the the only
so
thing that really
magic.
bothers me, I hate that fifth edition basically has absolutely no rules for scaling size. The only thing I
Mm,
believe raw that's different between a medium-sized character and a large-sized character is what size creatures they can grapple and their carrying capacity. I think those are the only two things that change. And so saying you grow to a large size, that is so cool thematically. Like nothing in the rules. Like, okay, you can grapple slightly larger monsters and you lose the ability to grapple goblins.
yeah,
Like, that's it.
all of the bonuses in the enlarge reduce spell, I think, are specific to that
Yep.
spell. All
Mhm.
of the bonuses to oversized weapons in the DMG are specific to DMs using them for
Yep.
monsters.
Yep.
Oftentimes, players want to recover, like an ogre's club and deal like the 3d12 that it deals or something crazy. Nope, can't do that. Um, so yeah, it is a bummer. It's one of those, how do you make it good without making it busted?
See, I
Um,
love, and it doesn't fit in fifth edition, which I totally get. I love in 3.5 how you've got tables and you have a long sword of a medium creature, right? A long sword of a large creature, you just do this to the dice, right? So, like a 1d8, 1d10, it's depending on
for a
whether you're
longsword,
one-handed or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
two-handing it. Yeah, it'll transform into like a 2d6 or something like that, and it makes sense because a great sword for a medium creature is a long sword for a large creature. And I love this ability to shift these things up and down. It also makes, I think you get a +1 to AC and a +1 to hit when you're small, and a -1 to AC and a -1 to hit when you're large. And so smaller things deal less damage and but are harder to hit and are easier to hit other things, and then vice versa when you switch. I love that relationship.
And that's in
So
3.5.
sad. Yes, so sad that fifth edition doesn't have anything like that. I think it'd be so cool if it's like you grow large, and instead of dealing 2d12 with your greatsword, you deal 2d12, jeez, 2d6 with your greatsword, you deal 3d6. Um, that's so cool. I think that's so thematic. So kind of disappointing. I think at the highest level, you get to grow into huge size. And oh boy, the extra damage you can deal once per turn goes from a D6 to a D10. How exciting! Um, the only really thing you get out of that is now you can grapple like a dragon, which admittedly is pretty cool, but their strength is going to be so high you'll be hard pressed to beat that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into specifics because I'm choosing not to. But I'm part of the playtest for Matt Colville's Kingdoms and Warfare, and there is and also for the Arcadia magazine that is going to be coming out at some point. But there have been some things tested in some of those products that have to do with growing in size and power. And I
Ooh.
think that I've given some feedback. Some of how it was written I didn't love. Some of how it was written I thought it was really awesome. So we'll see what comes out as a result of that. Um, but there are other people in the space doing some work on it. You're right, fifth edition as natively doesn't do anything, but stay tuned for maybe some third-party solutions that I think will be pretty cool. It might be specific to, just a single subclass, but it's something. I do like here how there's the Battlemaster builds. There are just suggestions for saying, hey, do you want to be a bodyguard or do you want to be like a lancer or a pugilist or an archer? There's a ton of choices, and this is really complicated. What if I just told you, take this fighting style, these maneuvers, and go for this or these feats? I think that's really, really helpful for onboarding new players.
That's okay. So when I first got to this, I was confused. I was like, I don't understand what the point of this is. I'm glad that you do.
That was
That
my
makes a lot of
first
sense. I'm
reaction.
glad that they have it.
My
Yeah.
first reaction was going, okay, I'm a brand new player and I'm seeing, and we're raving about all these choice and customizations, but new players might be saying, geez, this is
Yeah,
really
that's fair.
overwhelming. I just wanted to play like this bodyguard fighter. What am I supposed, I don't, there's so many things. And it goes, hang on, buddy, it's fine. Just take these fighting styles. It's like quick builds, but for, complicated battle master stuff. And so you have the option to play more mechanically complicated class, but it sort of lays out for you some suggestions to make that build come alive. I think that's super, super cool. Big fan.
So moving to, I mean, I'm not the one in charge, but I assume we're moving on. The monk, super cool. I'm not sure I really understand dedicated weapon. It seems like, eh, you may have different thoughts, but I love key fueled attack. I think that really helps a lot of the monk subclasses that need their action to do cool stuff. They can still be attacking, which is what the monk is all about. I'm still kicking people and kicking butt. I don't know how I feel about them having access to a bunch of healing with their quickened healing ability. Um, but focused aim and key field attack, again, as we have said before, I really love these new abilities or changes to abilities and whatnot that exist
So
for
let's
these
let's talk
classes.
about them a little bit because there are several here. Dedicated weapon basically just means that you can make something a monk weapon that isn't just a simple weapon or a short sword. It doesn't all the way go to Kensei monks because it does need to be a simple or martial weapon, and you have to be proficient with it. Can't be special or heavy. But for example, if you want to be an elf monk and you have natural elven proficiency with a long sword, you could use that as a monk weapon. Um,
But should a longsword be a monk weapon?
if you're an elf, maybe.
I think so. My complaint here is twofold, and as with all things, do what you want and have fun your way. Please, I'm not trying to say people should play this way. This is just my gut
Absolutely.
reaction to it.
Underscore
Firstly,
exclamation point.
firstly, uh, thematically, like monks don't use any weapon, and I don't like the idea
Quarterstaff.
of yeah, it's like there are certain weapons that are monk weapons. Secondly, the reason they're so restricted, they can't use martial weapons as their monk weapons, is because martial weapons are more powerful than simple weapons. And so to allow any monk to pick any martial weapon, assuming they're proficient with it, which they can get, through a variety of ways, like just being an elf, um, giving them access to that, it's like, okay, cool, now this limitation on my class, right, I have to use simple weapons because I'm getting tons of extra attacks and I get to do all this cool stuff with monk weapons. Now we're allowing martial weapons to be used. There isn't, that basically takes away any limitation. Any weapon could be a monk weapon. and I don't like that.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I am very confused by key fueled attack. If you spend one or more key points as part of your action on your turn, so you spend a key
Hmm.
point to do something. Oh, okay. So you spend a key point to do something. You can make an unarmed attack or a monk weapon attack as a bonus action before the end of the turn. And I thought this was basically just martial arts. But the martial arts thing is if you use the attack action,
Yes, yes,
then you get the free action. This is saying, hey, Way of the Four Elements monks, if you want to use your action to do your cool thing, you still get to get an unarmed attack or a monk weapon attack as a bonus
yeah,
action. I
super great.
often talk to a player and be like, no, sorry, you don't get to do, your flurry of blows, your free unarmed attack, that kind of a thing, because you didn't take the attack action, like it
Yeah,
says. Key fueled attack means if you spent a key on your action, then you can do your bonus action attack. I kind of like that.
yeah, I love it.
Um,
Big fan.
Quickened Healing as an action, you spend 2 key points and roll your martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points equal to that rolled plus your proficiency bonus. That is a lot of key points for
It
not that
is.
much healing.
Yes, but
So, like, let's say you're 7th level. You spend 2 key points, you have 5 left, and you get a d6 plus proficiency, so a d6 plus 3. So that averages out to 6.5 hit points at 7th level. That is not that much.
and that's why I think it's odd. It's like I don't know if the monk is a class that screams out, "I need healing." Um, they don't need access to healing. There are some classes of monk that provide healing. One of them is about to come up. This is your action. You're regaining so little health. Why have this as a feature? I don't know if I like this one very
It's
much.
more options. It's more things for you to choose to do with your key. It's out of combat key. There's some thoughts, but
It almost says to me, hey, we made this cool key fueled attack. Who can use this other than Way of the Four Elements? Everyone can. Let's give everyone a way to get it off. And now you can get a little bit of healing in one attack. Yeah.
so here's some cheese I am noticing just to be aware of, because players always want to take maximum advantage, as they would call it,
Sure.
and I would call it cheesing. Um, but technically, to regain your key does not take a short rest. It takes a half an hour of meditation, and a short rest is an hour. So you could use this ability at the start of a short rest, use it again in the middle of a short rest, and then still have all of your key back at the end because it's half an hour. And so you could save on some hit dice by kind of boosting your short rest healing without using it. It's not a
Mm.
massive exploit, mind you, but it is a way to. I'm going to go into this short rest. I'm going to spend all of my key, and then a half hour later, spend all of my key only on healing, and then exit that short rest much more healed and full key.
Yeah, this one sits weird with me. The other one is cool, though. Focused aim is nice.
What is focused aim?
If you miss with an attack roll, you can spend 1 to 3 key points to increase your attack roll by 2 for each of these key points you spend, potentially turning the miss into a hit. Very cool, very cool.
It is very cool. My question would be a DM specific thing. Do you tell the player how far off they are?
I usually don't worry about that too much because someone at the table knows what their AC is. If it's not like the first or second attack, someone at the table knows what the AC is. I don't know if I've ever played with a group that isn't like, oh, that one hit, oh, that one missed, oh, that one hit, as they whittle down exactly what the AC is. Like, I respect that Colville says, first time someone hits, I just tell them what the AC is. It just takes care of a lot of the crunch. They're gonna figure it out anyway. So if I was in a situation where they don't know what the AC is, I would not tell them how far off they are by because I want them to decide how much of a risk are they going to take. If they say I think 3 key points is gonna a +6, I think that'll hit. That's their call. I don't mind them missing that attack even after they spend a bunch of resources because they chose to do it before they knew what the target's AC was.
That I mean, I think that is reasonable. I also know that, especially at fifth, sixth level, spending 2 or 3 key points for no change, oh, that feels bad. It feels really
Sure.
bad.
But I mean, why are you trying, like, you're the one taking the risk. Why are you risking all your key when you don't
That's
know what
fair.
the target's AC is?
It's a fair
That's what I
argument.
would say.
Because I'm a dumb, impetuous player. That's why.
Hey
Uh,
man, my player was a druid, and he decided he wanted to jump off the back of a giant eagle into the mouth of a T-Rex, and was immediately knocked on, without backup. By the way, the rest of the team was about 2 turns out, and he went unconscious and did not get to fight that fight.
but
He
what a
did him, and
story.
he yeah, that's what he says. He's like, dude, I jumped on a T-Rex. Like, he has no qualms. He was super upset during the fight, but afterwards, definitely was happy with his decision. So I just let players be players, I guess.
So we got some Way of Mercy here. Get some
Don't like Way of
proficiencies.
Mercy.
No, we got some proficiencies. And then yeah, so you're kind of healing here. You can spend a key to restore some hit points to somebody else.
Yeah, it counts as an attack, right? I believe that's what it says. Yeah, when you use your flurry of blows, you can replace one of the unarmed strikes with a use of this feature without spending a key point for the healing. So as
Oh,
long as you're using flurry of blows every
which costs
turn,
a
you
key.
can.
Which costs a key.
Yes, no, for sure. It's not completely free.
Hmm.
And then you also get Hand of Harm. You get to deal an
All at
extra
third level.
necrotic damage. Physician's Touch makes your heal of Hand of Healing and Hand of Harm just more effective. I think it's pretty nuts. Use your Hand of Healing on a creature. You can also end a disease, blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. So for 1 key point, I can eliminate any one of those conditions on somebody in melee range. But yeah, okay.
Also,
And
Hand of Harm lets you subject a
poisoned, no
creature to
save.
poisoned with
Yep,
no save. That's
yep,
bananas. It
yeah.
does say until the end of your next turn, but that is
I do not like this class. I think it's stupid. Oh,
um yeah, I mean no save is always tough. Is always a tough sell for me. Like this thing just happens. Unless of course it's me doing it to the players, then I have no problem with it. No, it's yeah, that's tough. That's I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know if I would change it if somebody was playing. For most of when somebody brings a class in, if they've never played it before, it's never been played at my table. I generally just let it ride rules as written until I notice a problem, and then I go, hey, let's talk about that problem. But this would be one of the things I would keep my eye on, if that makes sense. This
hmm
would be something I would keep my eye on. Is this Way of Mercy? Definitely wouldn't say no to it out of the bag. I don't think there's anything that I have a hard ban on that is printed in a um, first party Wizards of the Coast official book.
Artificer.
I don't. I let someone play that. I just
What
change
if
the
I wanted to
narrative.
play a Battlesmith Artificer with a clockwork robot following me around?
I would try to work with you to figure out a way to make that work narratively. And if you were really stuck to that fantasy, then I would say, cool, let's go with it. It doesn't jive with my world, but my game is not about my world. It's about the thing we're all doing together. So
Now
I
I feel really
appreciate
bad
your
because I
attempts
was
to
teasing
derail
you
me,
and
but
you're making
I'm
niceties.
good guy
Niceties.
idea. Take that. So we got Way of the Astral Self. I actually used this in a
Oh, hang on.
1v1.
Also, 17th level, they get access to Resurrection.
Oh, geez.
5 key points anytime within the past 24 hours. They're up and about.
Yeah, so we're not
Just wanted
fans
to.
of Way of Mercy.
Don't like it. Astral Self, I do like. I'm a
It's
fan
not
of this one.
terrible. It's not terrible if your party doesn't have a healer or whatever. And it's like I guess I'm the healer now as a monk. Astral Self is kind of cool. You get these astral arms you can do different things with, and that are basically cooler than your regular arms. I have used this in a 1v1 against a player. I have a
Oh,
thing
that's
in my
cool.
world where monks can like go head to head to take on each other's titles. Um, and somebody fought an astral self monk in the astral sea. So
Very
that
cool.
was extra dope. So I'm big fan. of these guys. They're basically very similar to what they were in the UA. That has been the main gripe I've heard about this book, is especially the subclasses are basically reprints of things that existed in other books, like Mythic Odyssey of Theros or UA. And I guess if you are very deep into UA, then you might have seen a lot of this stuff before. I am not usually, so I don't care.
Oh man, now I can complain about
Ah,
paladins.
let's do it, man. I love paladins. All right. So
Okay,
first off, their spells. I don't think there's anything in here that's gross. Prayer of Healing. Prayer of Healing is a pretty healy spell for a paladin, but I'm fine with that. Other than that, seems fine to
it's out of
me.
combat. Warding
Um,
Bond is another one I'm surprised they didn't have it already.
the only new fighting style option given to them here is Blessed Warrior. You get 2 cantrips from the cleric list. Is that it? Oh, as your fighting style. So you don't get a fighting style, you get two cantrips. I like that.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yeah,
There
buddy.
should be, and it doesn't make sense for them to have it. I understand why they did it. There should not be a fighting style the fighter doesn't get access to. That's the
There are,
whole
okay, hang on a second.
point.
Hang on a second. There
Uh,
are already fighting styles that the fighter doesn't get
no.
access to.
Which
Pretty sure.
ones?
Um,
Who would have a fighting style that the fighter doesn't have? They have
I thought
everybody's fighting
I
style.
thought Rangers got something the fighters didn't.
I'm pretty sure Rangers don't
Let's
get
see.
anything,
Archery
but
defense,
fighters don't
magic
have
defense,
access to. Because that's the whole point. Fighters do everything,
6.
or they can do everything. They have
Grapple
access to
fighting.
everything.
Maybe they do.
Hmm.
So counter argument. I'm not going to delve into all of the everyone's fighting styles. I think you are correct. I think you are correct that they have access to all the things. Because
That now that
barbarians
yeah,
don't get them.
Blessed Warrior should not be a fighter fighting style. It doesn't make sense.
So, but here's the other thing. Blessed Warrior, in my opinion, isn't really a fighting style. Blessed Warrior is saying you don't get a fighting style, and
Hmm.
instead you are trading that. I would almost more have considered Blessed Warrior as the optional class feature instead
That's what they should have
of.
written it. Yes,
And it's
agreed.
and it's like I don't how do you word that other than, hey, your fighting style is you learn 2 cantrips, which is not a fighting style, but don't tell
Well,
the
no, but
others.
we've passed by some. I think the Bard had one where it says at third level, this replaces this feature. Nope, it wasn't the Bard. I know I've read that somewhere. Maybe I'm insane.
Yeah,
Um,
I get why they
and
worded it this way. You could do it the other way, but I definitely wouldn't consider this a fighting style. I would consider this a sub out thing. So the fighter gets to keep their integrity, paladins get access to spells. I do have the
I would just like
question.
to mark out there to the universe, which to the coast you
Yeah.
did it wrong. So there, I'm
Um,
the one you should hire me.
so what do they get? So in combat, none of the damaging cantrips are going to be worthwhile for a paladin. They've got way cooler things to do. But
Yeah.
out of combat, and they now could have access to like guidance, light, mending, spare the dying, thaumaturgy. I'm fine with this.
Hmm.
I'm fine with all of this.
Yeah, definitely glad
Word
they
of
get that. That's a
Radiance. That's a damage one.
really cool thing. It just shouldn't be a fighting style. Dang it, wizards.
Your gripe has been heard. Harness divine power. You can use your. Oh yeah, so you can use your channel divinity to regain spell slots. Sorry, I
Yeah.
misspoke there. You can use your channel divinity to regain smite slots. That's better. Because let's be honest, that's what you're using them for. If
And
you're
now we
being
have
a paladin.
reached that I have not read anything further than this, so all this will be new to me as well.
Fantastic. Oath of Glory is a reprint. Um, that exists in Mythic Odyssey of Theros, the Greek one that didn't at all really feel Greek to me, but that's a different book for a different thing. Um, Oath of the Watchers. Yeah, you're these ever vigilant guardians against extraplanar forces. I like that. It's kind of the Horizon Walkers from for Rangers from Xanathars. Um, all about vigilance, loyalty, discipline, oath spells. Yeah, I like these oath spells. Channel divinity, warding power in your faith as an action. You can choose a number of creatures 30 feet of you. Charisma modifier for 2 minutes. That's weird. That should probably be 1 minute. Um, you have advantage on mental saves. Okay. Abjure Extraplanar. Yeah, make Aberration, Celestial, Elemental, Fey, or Fiend do a Wisdom save, or they're turned. That exists in other kinds of Paladin channel divinities. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's just built on like defense and protection against extraplanar threats.
Yeah, their 15th level is super disappointing. Um, anytime whenever you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you succeeds on intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can use your reaction to deal 2d8 plus charisma, force damage to the creature that forced the saving throw. There's no limit to how often you could do it, but how often is your DM throwing people at you that are forcing? I mean, that's like it's most spells that are affecting the mind, but how many fights are there spellcasters, and how many times in a fight do they use a spell that forces that?
That's fair.
Um,
Yeah.
that one feels rather limited. I think it would have been nicer if it didn't require reaction, right? Like I still get my reaction, it just around me. If it didn't require success, if anyone around me is forced to roll a saving throw, you're taking damage. Those could have been ways to make that 15th level have more oomph.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it seems to be a little meh.
This is sort of a hot take about higher level abilities. I think the job of any class feature or spell that you would get access to beyond, say, 13th or 14th level is mostly just there to sound really awesome and for the player to go, ooh. Because how often do you get there? Like, when are you using those 17th level abilities? Not that often. This 20th level mortal bulwark that paladins get, ooh. Like, why read it? It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You're probably not going to get there. Now, you might, but you're probably not, statistically speaking. So focus on the abilities you are actually going to use. I definitely see people focusing too much on like, yeah, man, I don't like the 17th level ability, and I want to tell them like, listen, don't read anything beyond about 12th level. The campaign's not going to make it that far. Um, and so just focus on the stuff you get between third and about ninth level. You're definitely going to use those things, especially third, fourth, fifth, sixth level abilities. Just focus on those, and if they sound really cool, use them. So that's my little chunk on high level abilities. Just need to sound cool. Don't have to be balanced.
Oh, come on! I read ahead. The ranger gets a fighting style that the fighters don't get.
Ha
So frustrated. But look, and I hope I'm not stealing the spotlight here, but they've redone everything. They've got a first
Amazing.
level that replaces Natural Explorer, replacing Favored Foe. Like it looks like just a complete rework of the lower level stuff, at least.
Fantastic. I personally think that the PHB Ranger is I don't know that it's bad or weak or whatever. I just don't really like it. I think it's very blah. And I think it's very DM dependent. Like if it's not a wilderness survival exploration campaign, then there's kind of no use for most of the ranger. And if it is those things, then your ranger goes, "We succeed," and that's the end of the campaign. So I'm not wild about that. I don't love any of the spell list expansion because I don't think rangers should be spellcasters. I have already put out a video on Martial Ranger, a homebrew that I have that has been playtested a little bit now to I think pretty good success. I just don't. Again, this is a thematic thing. This is basically all of my gripe with most classes and subclasses that I dislike. It's on thematic grounds. So what's the Artificer, Psionics, and now Rangers casting spells. I just don't love it. But I do like Rangers getting
Ooh,
cool features.
yeah, these are really cool. So replacing Natural Explorer, and you'll forgive me if I don't know what any of the Ranger stuff does. I've never played one nor
Does
had one.
anyone?
But first level, you get expertise.
Love it.
You also get 2 more languages. Sixth level, your walking speed increases by 5, and you gain climbing, swimming speed equal to your walking speed. That's super cool.
Great.
And 10th level, you can give yourself temporary hit points every so often, just a few, not a lot. And whenever you finish a short rest, your exhaustion level, if any, is decreased by 1. Super
Short
cool.
rest exhaustion.
Um,
That's brilliant.
I wish there were more
It's
things, and
10th
we were
level.
talking about this today. More things need to cause exhaustion to make that worth it.
Right.
But how cool is it that a ranger? I mean, that's Aragorn, like in the flesh, right?
Yeah.
He's like, man, I'm going to take a break, and then it won't matter that I haven't slept in 2 weeks. He
I
does
love
that
it.
all the time.
Aragorn is the archetypal ranger. That's why I think that rangers shouldn't have access to meld into stone, summon Fey, or revivify. But that's different. Yeah, I don't like that rangers have gotten revivify because I don't like that rangers have any spells at all.
So favored
Favorite foe.
foe is Hunter's Mark, but weaker. You get an
But a class
extra.
feature.
Sure, sure.
And it
Um,
stacks with Hunter's Mark.
well, no, because you have to concentrate on it.
It doesn't stack with Hunter's Mark.
Oh wait, well, hang on, hang on.
It
Or
might
until you
stack with
lose concentration. So what it says, here's the text. You tell me how you would rule this. Mark the target as your favorite enemy for 1 minute, or until you lose your concentration, as if you're concentrating on a spell. So if you cast another spell that has concentration, you lose concentration.
Right.
So it doesn't
You're
attack
no
with
longer
Hunter's
bonded.
Mark. You deal 1d4 extra damage on once per turn. Once per turn,
Ugh,
you deal 1d4 extra damage, and that's it.
that's
Uh,
very bad.
it's terrible. Now that damage goes up 1d6 at 6th level and 1d8 at 14th level, and that's it. It doesn't give you any bonuses to tracking it. It only lasts for a minute. You can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So like, it's just this teeny tiny little thing.
So
Definitely not a fan of that.
pulling up favorite enemy in the PHB,
Hmm.
you get to choose a type of creature.
Sure.
You have advantage on survival checks to track them and intelligence checks to recall information about them. And you have one language associated with them. And you get to pick
Wait, that's it?
extras as you level up. That's it.
Oh,
Favorite enemy
jeez,
is
come on, fifth
garbage.
edition. How
Favorite
did
foe is
fifth
also bad.
edition mess this up so bad?
I will say, I know you didn't play any of it, but fourth edition's Rangers were really cool, but very strong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What archetype were they, or what class, or I forget what the language
they were
is.
strikers. They were
Strikers.
damage
Okay.
dealers. They were like two-weapon fighter, berserker frenzy. You could go bananas with damage. Highest level DPS or DPR, I
I
guess,
do remember you telling me
was
that
yeah,
before.
dual
That does sound
wielding
familiar.
like long sword ranger. It's crazy, but yeah, that was fourth edition. So maybe they were like, oh, let's like tone it back a little bit, and then they made this. Yeah, druidic warrior again. Okay, listen.
Oh, it's the
So
same thing. I
it's
didn't
the
read it.
same thing. Goodness gracious, you're getting all mad, and it's
Oh,
not actually a fighting style that they
it
get. It's
says it's a
a
fighting style. Wizards.
of the coast. Spellcasting focus. You can use nature as a spellcasting focus. Neat. Um, Primal awareness, replacing primeval awareness. You learn additional spells based on your level. I mean, I don't like that, but again, I'm not the master of all rangers. I think that there are a lot of people who really like spell-based rangers. I've already said what I need to say, so
Sure,
I don't need
sure.
to slag off on them anymore. It replaces primeval awareness, which is kind of dumbish. You just like can you spend a spell slot and you can sense where a creature type is. You can whether or not the type of creatures are present within 1 mile of you, or within up to 6 miles if you're in your favorite terrain, like aberrations, celestials, dragons, elemental, fey, fiend, undead,
See, I
etc. It
like
doesn't
that
reveal their location
because
or number.
sure, sure. But think about, okay, so Eyes of the Grave, right? The what kind of cleric gets that?
Grave
The
cleric.
Grave Cleric, right? They get Eyes of the Grave. They can pop instantaneously, see, is there an undead within 60 feet of me? Where is it? A ranger can say, I'm gonna look at the ground, I'm gonna sniff the air, there are undead present, or there are dragons present. That could be such a cool thematic moment that can confirm a lot of information. If you use it on like squirrels, yeah, it's useless. But if you're looking for something specific, to be able to look around and say, we're close, I can feel it. That's Super Ranger. I do really like
It
that.
is, but
Um,
think about the reality of it. You spend a spell slot, and you learn You sense whether or not they are present within the
Mm-hmm.
mile of you, and it only lasts for a minute per level of the spell. So basically, you're not going to cover much ground in that minute. So you spend a first level spell slot, and it's basically an instant ping. I know it lasts for some time, but in
I don't
function,
know
it's
why
an instant
it
ping.
isn't an instant ping.
I have no idea.
Unless you're like waiting for something. Even then, yeah, it should be
Yeah.
an instant ping. There's no point. That
So
lasting for more than a minute doesn't
right.
help you.
So let's best case scenario. You're in your favored terrain and you're trying to hunt down, this lair of the necromancer and his undead. And you go, "Yes, there are creature type undead here. Is it the ones we're looking for? No idea. Are there a bunch of them? No idea. Are there some over there and over there and over there? Maybe. Like, it is not in any
So
way
it's
functionally
not,
useful."
but it's not tracking, right? So this is like you visit this town, right? And something's off. Like something seems super super weird. The townsfolk are scared. No one's meeting you in the eye, and like everyone's got their warning lights on, but they don't know what's going on. And then suddenly, like somebody mentions a graveyard, and you're like, "Hang on a second. Snap my fingers. Are there undead here?" And
Right,
then
but here's the
boom, you
thing.
suddenly know
No, no,
what you're
no.
dealing
No, you
with.
don't. No, you don't. Because you do ping and you go, "Yes, within 6 miles of me, there is
But
at
how many
least one
villages are there in
zombie."
6 miles?
Doesn't have to be one. Let's say there's one undead ogre just wandering 5.5 miles away. It'll have the same ping as literally everyone in this town that I am in is undead. It'll have the
Okay,
same thing.
so
That's the
two
thing I have a
questions for
problem
you.
with.
Two questions for you. Number one, if you are ready to game, do you think to yourself, "Man, I got this one undead ogre 4.5 miles away. Gotta keep him in mind just in
When
case."
someone uses primeval awareness, you bet I do.
But it's like it's another ability that's
It
entirely
is.
inherent on the DM to present
Which is
situations
most of the ranger
for it.
class. Most of the ranger class is that
Yes,
way.
agree,
If there's no
agree.
survival elements, if the DM doesn't make you roll for lots of things, if there's no foraging for food, if there's no getting lost, if there's none of that, then
But
don't play ranger.
Aragorn would not work in a lot of settings. I think the ranger, the idea of being the outdoors survivalman, needs DM buy-in.
Yeah,
Right? You cannot pull Aragorn out of Lord of the Rings and stick him in
Star
even,
Wars.
well, no, not even that far away. Even other fantasy stuff,
Sure.
Aragorn isn't always going to be useful. If I have a player that wants to play a ranger, I already know I'm going to need to tune some things in my campaign to make sure he's got what he needs. He needs to have stuff that his favorite enemies, they've got to be present, right? Heck, I would have them be a very important plot point at some arc of the campaign, because A, they're generally tied to their backstory, and B, they want to feel awesome. The ranger needs help, and I think that's always going to be true, no matter what kind of ranger it is, unless you boil it down so much that all you get is this generic. I mean, this primal awareness stuff. It's like, okay, I can speak with animals. B said speak with plants, locate creature. Like, all that's okay. Anyway, we've spent so long on this, but I think
Yeah.
ranger just needs DM buy-in to make it work.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Nature's Veil, Ranger archetypes, Fey Wanderer. They can do other things.
Bonus action, turn invisible. I'm sure that's really exciting for you. 10th level, Nature's Veil. You can bonus action, turn invisible until the start of your next
It's way
turn.
better than hide in plain sight. I'm
That is
fine
very
with it by
true.
comparison to hide in plain sight. Honestly, I feel bad for any time somebody's like, "I want to play a ranger," and so I go, "Great, tell me what you are thinking." And almost all the time they're like, "Aragorn." I'm like, "Awesome, play a fighter." The ranger in 5e has nothing to do with the original archetypal, you know, ranger that it was based on, Aragorn. So play a fighter, take some nature stuff, have a backstory where you're good at nature. Um,
So do you want to just skip the subclasses?
Swarm Keeper,
Oh,
kind of.
wait. I feel like
Nothing
I've
about this
heard
is
of that
exciting to
one.
me.
I think I remember reading the UA for Swarmkeeper.
Swarming
Beastmaster Companion. 3rd level Beastmaster feature, which replaces the
Wait, hold
Ranger
on.
Companion feature.
Wait, where? What? Huh? Hmm?
It's after the subclasses. They redid your companion.
That's great because Beastmaster companions are garbage.
Oh gosh, you could raise them from the dead.
Good.
When you
Can you
finish a long
imagine?
rest, you can summon a different beast. This is super weird. It keeps nothing of the
Uh, is
animal companion that
is
is
there a
part
fix
of the
to the
theme.
action economy? Because the action economy is why Beastmaster doesn't
Uh,
work. Unless you
it's
take
the
a
same
bonus
as
action on your
everything
turn.
else. Bonus action to commands. That's the same. So it's
Okay,
better.
that's fine. Yeah,
That's the same as all the other classes now. That's what my
right.
Artificer does with
Right, but
his companion.
that's not what
And
the Beastmaster does in the
yes,
player's
no, the
handbook, which
Beastmaster
is
was
like,
broken. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that was not news to anyone the moment it was released. So good, they have fixed it. This is great. I haven't ever liked the revised Ranger. I think they put a ton of power into it very, very early, but I know it was one of the only ways to fix Beastmaster. Now, I would feel totally fine with a player saying, I want to play Beastmaster. I would go, great, go to the Companions thing in Tasha's because that is the solution. That
But
seems a lot better.
who is saying I want to be a ranger with an animal companion, but this animal companion is basically a spirit that I just summon and I can change its form whenever I want. I feel like that's the wrong
I
direction to
wouldn't,
take it.
well, yeah, I mean, maybe I wouldn't let them, or maybe they wouldn't even want to summon a spirit form and be a spirit companion, and I would just say, like, listen, this beast of land or whatever, that's your bear
Hmm.
or your
Yeah.
lion or your whatever. This beast of sky, that's your eagle. Beast of sea, you get a seahorse or a platypus
Heck
or
yeah.
a
Fighting
snapping
seahorse.
turtle. Dude, actually, a snapping turtle. That sounds cool. Um, rogues, optional class feature, pretty skimpy here. As a bonus action, give yourself
Ooh.
advantage on your next attack roll on your current turn. Okay, so you can take your bonus action, and this gives rogues another thing to compete with their bonus action with cunning action. As a bonus action, you can give yourself advantage on this turn. You can only use this
If you
if
don't move.
you don't move. So if
Yeah,
you want to
that's
stand still as an
brilliant.
archer, it's pretty cool actually. You
That's
have
like, because think about how often does the rogue want to ambush somebody with a bow? They're
oh yeah,
not going to get sneak attack. Well, I guess hidden.
hidden.
Hang on. So this is if you're not. Why wouldn't you just hide?
Well, you don't always
Okay.
have a chance to hide.
What?
You don't always have a
Yeah.
chance to
So
hide. So
if you don't have a place to hide, then you can give up all of your movement in order to shoot someone with
your movement
advantage.
and your bonus. This
Yeah.
is
So
a
it
this
doesn't
is a
feel as strong as it sounds.
no, but I'll tell you what, as somebody who has just finished playing a rogue,
Very true.
the
Very true.
ability to say, and also, this does not say ranged attack.
Oh, that's fair. That's
So
fair.
so the ability to say, listen, I really want to attack this person. And if I'm a rogue, sneak attack is the only way I'm keeping up at all with the marshals in terms of damage. I need sneak attack. I am
Yeah.
willing to. There's no other way I can get it. I am willing to trade my movement and my bonus to get sneak attack. Also
You,
advantage, but sneak
yeah.
attack.
You can also use it to cancel out disadvantage. So if you're poisoned, now all of a sudden I could still get sneak attack if
I have a
I'm,
question for
hitting
you.
somebody with you.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you. How do you rule this when somebody has disadvantage from any source like poisoned, but also they're poisoned and hidden? Um, it's a straight
Uh,
roll.
I'm so sorry. Hang on. Give me just a second.
No problem. This is the part of the audio that if Nick is really dedicated, he will cut out because it's
So
just dead
sorry.
space, but I probably won't edit it. So there's a rogue, and they are poisoned and hidden. They have disadvantage and advantage canceled out straight roll. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, would you, if an ally was within 5 feet of their target, would you give them sneak attack?
Yeah. Why not?
The only question I have is it says you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. Now, It's a straight roll.
Oh.
It's a straight roll, so it's not disadvantage. But you are poisoned, so you do have disadvantage, but you also have advantage. I
I
think,
can see where you could rules lawyer that. To me, it really feels like, yeah, no, you're fine. You get sneak attack.
yeah, and that's where I come down as well. But I wanted to see what your thought was. I think we're both pretty player centric in our rulings. Like, give the benefit of the doubt to the player. My monsters have infinite lives if I want them to. Um, don't rule in ways that make the players feel bad.
I think the only, and we've talked about this in the past, there are many instances where the players want a cool ability, and I don't want to give it to them because it steps on the toes of a class that no one is playing.
Ooh, I disagree.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like the idea of only a ranger is able to track people through the wilderness. I think I heard Colville say that once, and I'm completely sold because that makes rangers really, really cool. I don't want a magic item that gives inspiration that can be used by people who aren't bards.
Hmm.
Because if you want to do something like give inspiration, play a bard. I want my players to think, man, I would love to be able to do that. That would be a cool class. I'm going to play that next time. So that is, in one way, I'm not necessarily player centric. I will not allow players generally to get the abilities of other classes, even when those classes aren't played in this campaign.
I will not allow players to get the abilities of other classes that are being played in this game. But
Yes. Hmm.
I've definitely like, I almost today I was thinking up some magic items for a player, and I
Yep.
almost gave them just straight up Barbarian Rage, like copy
Yeah.
paste the text, and nobody's playing a Barbarian in my game. Just give them Barbarian Rage.
Hmm.
I think I have done that with something for one of the current players. I gave them some custom ability or something that is basically exactly this thing from a race or a class or a subclass that nobody is playing, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I have no problem doing that. I get why you don't do it, and I recognize that you're wrong, so it's okay. Obviously, I am joking. People who think I might be saying a serious thing. Let's keep going with
We're making
rogues.
great time. Great
Great
time.
time. This is going to be two videos. I have already decided this is going to be two videos, at least in terms of what I upload, because we're halfway through the book and we're not even finished with the subclasses. So there's going to be subclass rant and then rules and stuff rant.
Oh, I thought you were saying what we're doing right now is going to be two videos. Like it's already too much. It's already too much.
No, I'm going to upload two like 2 hour videos.
So,
Um,
the roguish archetype Phantom.
yeah,
This is
Shadowfell Rogue. I love it.
super crazy, interesting thematics here
Love
for
it.
sure. Whispers of
Wait, are
the
they
Dead,
psionics?
super cool. No,
Okay,
no.
great. Shadow Magic. I'm totally fine with Shadow Magic Rogue.
So you could gain a skill or tool proficiency that you lack. Because you're like listening to the echoes of dead people around you. Super cool.
Listen, you
Uh,
get soul trinkets, and I don't know what those are, but that sounds awesome.
Immediately after deal a sneak attack damage to a creature, you can target a second creature, roll half the number of sneak attack dice, and the second creature takes necrotic damage equal to the total as wails of the dead sound around them.
Amazing. How often can rogues deal with multiple targets at once? That is not something rogues are generally built for. This is cool. You can only use this a number of times equal to your proficiency until you finish a long rest. So you can't do it a bunch, but you can definitely pop a couple people. I like that.
Yeah.
You have a tiny trinket. Oh, they don't give the stats for the tiny trinket that it is like invulnerable and
Tiny.
immune to all damage. It is capital T tiny so that we know that it is indicating
Oh,
its thing
thanks
as
so
opposed to
much
just
for that.
description.
I
Like,
can't
listen,
have a small trinket, something the size of like a dog
well, it doesn't
that I
say it.
carry around.
It doesn't say it's immune to all damage, so any fireball is going to kill that trinket by every vindictive DM out there.
Fire? No, 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 because fireball only damages creatures and unattended items, I believe. There's a lot of rules for items taking damage, and a lot of spells that only target the creature or items that aren't. Now,
Listen,
how that makes any sort of sense, I don't know,
listen,
but it certainly helps with the bookkeeping when you don't have to worry about your shield taking 50 fire damage.
that is true. But the soul trinket gives you advantage on death and con saves. That's neat. You deal sneak attack. You can destroy your soul trinket. Um,
Oh, and then you get a free
and then you
Whales
get
from the
to free
Grave.
Whales of the Grave. Great. I love. This is just good game design. I love when I love callbacks to previous mechanics that improve. Bards did this a bunch, where it improves a thing you got earlier on. I know it's like a very simple thing, but I
Hmm.
really like that. It feels like this is a thing that I get from my subclass, and later on it gets made better, or I can use it
Yeah.
differently, or it's cooler. I think that's really good design. You can destroy a soul trinket no matter where it's located. You can ask the spirit associated with the trinket one question. Ooh. It's a little
Oh
mini
man.
speak with dead. That's very
Yeah.
cool.
And
Very
and just
cool.
like Speak with Dead, they don't have to actually.
They don't have to be truthful. They only know what they
Yeah.
knew in life. Like it's the same rules, but ooh, you get one question. It answers concisely as possible, eager to be free. That's thematic and dope.
Yeah. Very nice. The 13th
Ghost
level
walk.
is pretty nuts. Why ever play a thief when you could have Ghost Walk?
Get a fly speed of 10. You can hover. And attack rolls have disadvantage against you. Holy cow.
Hang on. Keep going.
You can move through creatures and objects in difficult terrain, but you take a D10 force damage if you end your turn. You can just walk through walls now.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this is 13th level, so again, we have that. It's
Yeah.
flirting with that doesn't matter kind of power level, but it's a long rest. Or if you destroy a soul trinket, you get to do it again.
And it lasts for 10 minutes. That's
10
infiltration
minutes.
right there. That's
It
like
is
I
pretty
can
big.
go into any room. Like,
Um, so you are not invisible. I will note that.
that is fair.
So you are definitely able to be seen while you're doing this. So it's not
But you're
perfect
also walking
infiltration.
through walls. The moment you see somebody, oh,
Yeah.
excuse me, whoop.
I didn't say it wasn't good. I just wanted to make sure.
That's pretty crazy for
17th level
infiltration.
ability sounds really cool, but you probably will never use it because it's a 17th level ability. Um, and there's a psionic rogue that I'm sure is cool for people who like psionics. You get psychic blades, soul blades, psychic veils. Do you have any thoughts about this one?
Like I said, I haven't read anything past a point we've already passed, so I haven't read this guy. I'll probably go back and reread it at some point.
We
But
are
it's a rogue and it doesn't get spells, so it's not worth my time, right?
Well, we are about to get into some very exciting territory for you
Yes,
because we're going to
yes,
hit
yes,
three
yes.
casters in a row to finish out
Oh,
the
this is the
class and
best.
subclass stuff. We got sorcerers here.
And I'm excited
Um,
because first of all, if you look at all the asterisks next to the new spells, so many new sorcerer spells. That's really exciting.
yes.
Secondly, I have not found a sorcerer subclass that I love. I love the base sorcerer stuff. I have not found a subclass that like really, really excites
Well,
me,
let's
and
see what we
so
can
I'm
get
looking
here.
forward to this.
Um, Nothing is jumping out at me as crazy for these sorcerer spells. I am noticing grease. Normally, sorcerers have a much more like combat-oriented kit in terms of spell list because it's all about heightening and exploding, and they're the nukes, right? But Grease is
Yeah,
very out of combat, not out of combat. It's a very utility as
yeah.
opposed to damage kind of spell. So that's kind of interesting.
Grease and Web were my two favorite spells in 3.5, and it just upsets me how they did it dirty in fifth edition. Grease just ruined. Oh my god! You used to be able to cast it on objects, so you could cast it on somebody's sword. You could cast it on like the ropes of a rope flat, like whatever you want to do. And now it's just like a flat surface. Okay, okay, fifth edition. Let's just take away all of our ability to express cool ideas. That's fine, whatever.
So in the meta magic options, we got two new meta magic options. Seeking
That's
Spell.
exciting.
You make an attack roll and miss. You can spend 2 sorcery points and re-roll the d20 using the new re-roll. I don't love
Ooh,
this.
and it's another meta magic that you can double up on. If
It
there
is. It is.
previously
And
one that
that's
allowed that.
right. That's very cool. But how many of the sorcerer spells are attack rolls? And 2 sorcery points is a lot for a re-roll.
It
Um,
is. I imagine they need to do that because of higher level spells,
that's
but
fair.
like disintegrate.
But
This
disintegrate is
is.
not an attack roll.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's a dex
Okay,
save.
I'm probably wrong about that. It's a damaging spell, and nothing happens if you miss, so I don't use it. Um, but
That is one of the few non. I think that's the only non-cantrip that is a saving throw with no half damage. So for me, I'm reading this and thinking about um, like Scorching Ray is a really
yeah,
good example of a
but
common.
that's because that's sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No, no, it's just a common low-level damaging spell with an attack roll.
That one, because that was the first thing that came to mind as well. But since you're getting 3 attack rolls, this is much less effective because it's not all or nothing. It's a lower level spell, but their unique first level spell, I always forget what it's called, but you throw it, it's an attack roll, you roll 2d8s and a d6 for damage. Your d8s determine its damage, but also
Oh,
what type of
yeah.
damage it is. And if you roll the
Chaos
same
Bolt?
number, Chaos Bolt, there you go.
Gotcha.
If you roll the same number, you get to attack another creature. Having Seeking Spell allows you to keep that chain going. Is it worth it for a first level spell? Probably not 2 sorcery points. But I'm sure there's also some really high level spells where it's like, man, I really need this to land.
Yeah.
Not a lot of attack rolls now that I'm thinking about it, though, at higher level spells, I don't think. Transmuted spell, super great. Fantastic idea. So glad it exists.
Yeah, when you cast a spell that deals damage, it's one of the elemental damage types, so acid, cold, fire, etc. You can use a sorcery point to change the damage type to another elemental damage type. So you can change fireball into a thunderball, or a poison ball, or a lightning bolt into an acid bolt. I think it's really, really cool.
That helps a lot with is it Elemental Adept? Is that the feat?
Mm-hmm.
Where you become it's so hard because you can't specialize in all types of magic equally. Some, like fire, have access to fireball. Some, the rest of them, do not. Right, and so there's definitely different levels of strength with different types of spells. With this, it could be like, okay, now I could take cold or whatever, and I could take all my favorite damaging spells, and if I need extra oomph, I just turn it into whatever I specialize in. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
So I will say this wouldn't get much play in most of my campaigns because I do allow players to reflavor the damage of a spell at the selection. So, for example, if somebody
Yeah.
wanted to play this like lightning mage, but they wanted to take Scorching Ray, I would say, great, pick Scorching Ray, and it'll just deal lightning
Yeah.
damage. That is something I allow, and I don't let you change it or swap it around or whatever. Whenever you pick it, you pick it. But I've had people want to be like, oh, I want to be this like, ice mage, but I have no good cold spells
Yeah.
outside of like Cone of Cold. So I've just said, great, just change all the things. Cool. Sorcerer's Versatility, so it's the same replace cantrip.
It lets you
on
change
your
meta
ASK.
magic, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
Glad.
big deal.
Again, I think that's a good choice. There's no reason that you should be locked into that. No thematic reason. I think changing it every level is a little too much. But every 4 levels, perfect. Love it.
For newer players, I let them change every long rest. And that is again for brand new players who are like, oh shoot, I didn't realize that this, that distant spell was garbage. Because we're never fighting at like ultra ranges.
Yeah.
Can I actually take Quicken Spell instead because it's way better? Yeah, bud. But I wasn't going to tell you that you can't take that because it's a mechanically bad option. I was going to let you figure it out. But yeah, for more experienced players, this is a cool changing of your style.
Magical guidance is cool. Like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of neat. You spend a sorcery point to re-roll an ability check that you fail. It's not awesome. It's burning a sorcery point. I don't know how often it's worth it, but I don't know. Maybe in a key conversational thing, sorcerers are charisma based. That's neat. Aberrant Mind. So you have a very alien, psychic presence stuff. Okay,
It's
psychic.
psionic spells is the first thing.
Son of a gun.
Oh man, fantastic.
So it's psionics. There is Clockwork Soul, Jimmy. There is Clockwork Soul.
Oh, Clockwork! That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, you read Clockwork. I'll read Psionic, and we
Great.
can gush to each other.
Great.
This looks like wannabe Warlock, is what my first impressions are so far.
This looks like utility sorcerer, which you're about to get excited about. You get Alarm and Aid, Lesser Restoration, Dispel Magic, Greater Restoration, Wall of Force. Heck yeah.
Okay, at 6th level, this guy can cast all spells using their sorcery points.
All spells?
So it's basically like
no spell
instead
restriction.
instead of converting, 5 sorcery points into like a second or third level spell, whatever that is, I can use 5 sorcery points to cast a 5th level spell.
Right, but is it
So
a fifth level spell on your sorcerer spell list, or can you cast a cleric spell with that?
no. It's your spells.
Okay,
It's
okay.
basically it's turning you into mana base. So you can turn all of
Yeah,
your
okay.
spell
So
levels
that's how
into sorcery
psionics.
points.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they want to do psionics as like spell point variant, which
Yes.
I have thoughts about, but um, yeah.
But that's really basically all this class is. You get warlock spells, your telepathic, and then a bunch of like extra things that are cool. You can see any invisible creature within 60 feet. This is all
I
15,
think you
15
might want to
level
play
stuff.
one of these.
Clockwork? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay, let's see.
So a creature within 60 feet of you is about to roll a d20 at advantage or disadvantage. You can use your reaction from preventing the roll from being advantage or disadvantage.
Okay.
Um, you can use this a number of times equal to your proficiency per long rest. So you could make your ally not roll at disadvantage or an enemy not roll at advantage. That's pretty cool. No sorcery points. You could just do it. That's your reaction. So that's very utility. You like that.
Mm-hmm.
As an action, you can spend 1 to 5 sorcery points. This is 6th level. 1 to
Yeah.
5 sorcery points to create a magical ward around yourself or another creature you can see within 30 feet. The ward lasts until you finished a long rest. The ward is represented by a number of d8s
Oh
equal to the number of
gosh.
sorcery points used to create it. When they take damage, it can expend a number of those dice, roll them, and reduce the damage taken by the total rolled on those dice.
What a weird way to do that. Like that is so much text for such a normal ability.
It is. It's a damage shield, but it is a cool shielding ability. Then you've got the ability to
I
align
don't
your.
see how that has anything to do with clockwork.
So clockwork in this is very like plane of mechanist, like
Yeah,
order, balance,
absolutely. So
return
what does that have to
things.
do with the shield that reduces damage you take by?
Well, you
Yeah.
can tap into the grand equation to imbue a creature with a shimmering shield of order. I don't know. Um, Align your consciousness to the endless calculations of Mechanus. As a bonus action, you can enter this state for a minute. For the duration, attack rolls against you can't benefit from advantage. And whenever you make an attack, ability check, or saving throw, you can treat a 9 as a 10. That's your 14th level ability. Okay.
You can use this bonus action once per long rest, and then you can use 5 sorcery points to activate it again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Attack roll,
it's
ability
nice.
check, or saving throw being the lowest you can roll is
Yeah,
a 10 is not bad.
no. It's definitely a pretty decent ability. That's how I feel about all the sorcery subclasses. It's like,
But
yep,
it's not exciting
that
to you.
seems pretty cool. Yeah, just eh.
Yeah. But it's always the why would I play this when I could play a wizard instead?
I mean, it's like I would rather play a wizard than a sorcerer just because more spells and like all the classic wizard stuff. But on top of that, every wizard subclass gets me super excited because it makes me imagine playing someone who specializes in those spells, thinking, "Yeah, that'd be cool." But none of the sorcerers. It's like, what? Looking at this, what kind of character do I want to make out of this? It's like I can get rid of advantage and disadvantage. I can shield people. I can I can make my rolls not less than a 10. Like there's nothing here that's like I can imagine building a character around this. It's just
Right.
they're all strong, decently strong abilities.
Yeah.
Um but it's just like imagine, their 14th level is okay. You gain the ability to align your consciousness to the endless calculations of mechanics. As a bonus action, you can off-put concentration so that you can concentrate on a second spell on your own.
That's pretty
Boom.
cool.
That's awesome. Now I'm thinking like, oh man, like to concentrate. What am I gonna? This all is like it's strong stuff, but it's not something that I'm ready to build a character around.
Yeah. Well, let's look at Warlock here because I'm seeing that Warlocks get access to Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade, which have been kind of tweaked and reworked in Tasha's. I'm looking forward to seeing what they changed. But that means Hex Blades get Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade, which I think could be interesting.
I will be honest, don't know a lot about Warlock. This is the one class that I have not read over more than like one time.
Interesting. Well, I have played one to
Mhm.
pretty high levels, so I'm interested in seeing what this does here. You get a new Pact Boon feature, Pact of the Talisman. You get an amulet or whatever. When they fail an ability check, they get to add a d4 to the roll, potentially turning that roll into a success. This benefit can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. There's that mechanic again. Um, okay, so yeah. Um, you are less likely at failing ability checks. I don't think that this is anywhere near as good as like Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Tome. Um, but it is interesting thematically. And you always have that balance of like, do you pick the thing that is cool or do you pick the thing that's powerful? I don't think they're always mutually exclusive, but sometimes you got to make that choice.
Yeah.
So in the spell versatility thing that you get for your ASIs, not only can you replace cantrips, but you can also replace a pact boon. This is a big deal, actually, to be able to
Yeah.
say, I am no longer going to be pact to the blade. Instead, I'm going to focus more on casting and go pact to the tome. Um, you can really make that.
This has finally reached that point of, with all the others I was saying, the fighter, they don't always have to fight the same way. But with this is kind of defining for what kind of warlock you are.
Hmm.
This is the type of pact that you've made with this ancient entity. So this is one, again, if a player really wants to take advantage of this, that's totally fine. If somebody likes this and wants it in their campaign, go for it. I think for me, if I was a player and I had this option, I don't think I'd take advantage of it. I think it just, you're taking the
I
core of who you are and swapping it.
I think it could be cool to say to have this little scene with your patron and say, I know you have given me this pseudo dragon to help me out, but I have, based on the problems in front of me, take it away from me and bless me with a packed bane sword or whatever that I can wield the blade. And you realize, like, shoot, I don't actually want to go Pact of the Fiend with this imp. I want to go Hexblade, and so I want to go Pact of the Blade instead. Um, you get to make that choice at fourth level or eighth level or whatever.
So I
I like
like
that.
that tied to a story beat, right? And I'd be up for if a player approaches a DM and says, "Hey, I would like to do this." Actually, having that player go through the process of contacting, their patron, all that. Heck yeah! But this is, every 4 levels. It's a very
Well,
mechanical, non-story driven idea, because leveling up is the idea of gathering experience, right? I've gathered experience, and so I've changed what I've been training in as a fighter. As I've leveled up, as I've gained more experience, I've learned this is how I'd rather train myself to fight. But that's a story beat. And again, people should do what they want. But that's just my gut reaction to it.
definitely, but I think too that, a lot of these things are not, you get mechanics. How do you explain them in world? Sometimes, there is no explanation, but you're relying on there being a narrative explanation somewhere along the way. And if a player came to me and said, "Hey," and I would tell them that you could use this, and they came to me and said, "Hey, I want to change," I was so great. Let's have a little scene, even if it's just in Facebook Messenger with me and that player one on one. Let's have a little interaction between you and your patron where you petition your patron to change. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to let you. So it's not like there's anything hinging on it. It's not like you could
Yeah,
fail, but let's have like do that scene for me. Like this
yeah.
this is your jam as a warlock, is your relationship with your patron. That is everything for the warlock when it comes down to role playing. And so again, it's a very DM dependent class, but I would be excited to do that as a player and excited for a player to do that as a DM.
That's very fair. I withdraw my disagreement.
Ha, get wrecked.
Now,
Nick 1, Jimmy 600.
oh, is that the score? I called attention to the third option for versatility, something that now that I see
Yes.
it, why hasn't this been a thing the whole time? Every other class can change what spells they know, with the one exception of well, maybe not. When a bard uses his I
Magical
could learn any
secrets.
spell, can they retrain those? I think the answer
Uh,
is either no or very rarely. Why should the Warlock not get to learn different higher level spells? Very, very glad that that is an option.
Yeah, big fan. Big fan of that. And you can only do it at 12th, 16th, and 19th level, but the ability to go, shoot, that spell that I
Yep.
chose at 11th
Hmm.
level, now that I'm 16th level, I realize that was a dumb decision for that 6th level spell. Um, yeah, that's cool. Um, some more invocations. If you are Pact of the Talisman, so this is you have to be Pact of the Talisman. So we go back to that. You get to succeed on, or you get to add a D4 to those failed ability checks. You can use your action to teleport to an unoccupied space. If someone else is wearing your talisman, I don't know why you would give that to somebody else, but okay. Provided the two of you are in the same plane of existence, you can
Ooh.
teleport to them from thousands of miles away as long
And
as you're in the
they can
same.
do the same thing to you.
All right, never mind. That's actually kind of cool. It's 12th level prerequisite, so you got to be high level. But yeah, you can just say, "Hey, I'm gonna give you this, and I'm gonna like rogue. I'm gonna give you this. You go in on your own and scout ahead. If you get in any trouble, just teleport to me."
Just pop back to me. That is awesome.
That's pretty
What
neat,
a cool
actually.
ability.
That's pretty neat. You can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You could do it a bunch of times a day.
Yeah.
So I mean, at 12th level, your proficiency bonus is like 4 or 5, 4, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, plus 4.
But I mean, at 13th level, it becomes +5. But still, that's a
Yeah.
bunch of times a
Hmm.
day. Eldritch Mind, advantage on con saves to maintain concentration.
So how
Not
many
bad.
invocations do you get? Because that means you don't have to go Warcaster. That does save you a
It's
feat,
true.
but what is in more limited supply, feats or invocations?
Feats, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
very cool then.
feats. Um, you get 2 starting at 2nd level, 3 at 5th, 4 at 7th, 5 at 9th. Seems like it goes up every 3 levels here until it ends up at 8 at 18th level. Um, so yeah, and because warlocks have so few spell slots, it's cool to be able to say you're going to be really good at being able to concentrate
Yeah,
on that spell. And also
I
I
think it would be. Oh, sorry.
also I believe yeah, this is a very similar thing to Warcaster, but yeah.
I think it would be really nice if this gave a different bonus. So it's like you get a +5 to Constitution saving throws that you make to maintain your concentration.
Hmm.
That way, I could double up if it was super important. And only giving that to Warlock, that would be totally fine with me because they do get so few spells. And when we're not a short rest centric game, then the Warlock really suffers. And so, giving them the ability to basically succeed at all concentration checks, I would be totally fine with that. And that lets them, really double up on that ability. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Farscribe is also really cool.
Farscribe is great. It's 5th level for Pact of the Tome. And you have a special page in your tome that is the Book of Shadows, and with your permission, someone else can write their name on your page, and they can hold as many names as equal to your proficiency bonus, which would be 3 at 5th level. And you can cast the Sending spell, targeting a creature whose name is on that page without using a spell slot, which is awesome. Warlocks love doing things without spell slots. I hate all of the invocations in the PHB that are, hey, you get to learn this spell, but it costs you a spell slot. Like, listen, man, I don't have any of those. But this is great. You don't need to use a spell slot. The target hears the message. You write the message on the page, and the target hears the message in in their mind, and they can reply, and it'll appear as writing on the page, which will disappear after a minute. As an action, you can erase a name from the page. This is phenomenal. Makes it
So cool.
really easy to communicate with home base or important NPCs or other players as they're far away. Like, access to sending. Sending is a super cool, very useful spell that it feels bad burning a spell slot on.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
so I like the access to it.
I am 100% game on, and again, not knowing most of the invocations. It's been so long since I've read through all of them. I'm a big fan of Warlocks get so few spells. Let's give them spells that they can cast at will. Like Sending is a 3rd level spell. This guy's going to get to cast it at will. with so many different people. It's limited to who they can send it to. You can't send it to everybody, but
Sure.
can send it to quite a few numbers of dedicated people. You can always have at least 1 or 2 people in your party. Give them stuff like that. That way they become a spellcasting class where it's like, I can get up to 9th level spells. I am super limited, so limited, more limited than any other class, but maybe I get all these cool at-will abilities that other people don't have access to. I am 100% giving Warlock that space to shine. That would more than make up for the fact that they don't get to do anything ever.
That's super cool. Yeah, Gift of the Protectors is also very neat. You get to write people's names in your book. It's at 9th level. Same, proficiency bonus restriction, but they basically get Death Ward.
Yeah. It's 1 death ward shared among a bunch of people.
Once this magic is triggered, no creature can benefit. Oh, okay, so it's
Mm-hmm.
1 Death Ward. I thought each person got an individual one. Okay, so that's maybe less good.
Well, no, because
That's
it
still
means you put it
good.
on the people that it matters, right? You put it on either the barbarian or the super squishy mage, and that
Sure.
way, if the tank is in trouble or the squishy person gets bursted, one of them is
Well,
going to be
by 9th
protected.
level, you can put it on the entire party. It's 4 people. You can put it on
That
basically
is
the whole
true. That is
party.
true, and you could just say the first person to drop, we've got your back.
Yeah, I just thought when I first read it that it was
Mm-hmm.
the first time every individual person drops per day.
That would
And
be
I was
really,
like,
really good.
I was gonna say, I said it was worse than I thought it
Yeah,
was. Not that it was bad.
yeah,
I thought it was
fair.
OP. Investment in the Chainmaster, your familiar gets really good. It gets a fly speed or a swim speed of 40 feet. Bonus action, they can attack. Like you spend a bonus action, they can attack. Like they can do a bunch of things here. It makes them really cool. I like this having a summoned pet. They feel neat.
Yeah, it doesn't let their attacks are magical, but it doesn't boost their attacks in any way. So
It doesn't.
it does mean that this will become useless, essentially.
Well, yes and
Um,
no. What are you doing all the time as a bonus action for a warlock? Not much usually.
I mean, your familiar is going to get 1 shot after you leave level 2. Like they're so squishy. Even if they are getting resistance, you can grant it resistance.
You can do
That's
ranged
one of the things.
attacks.
How many familiars have ranged attacks?
Well, so remember, Pact of the Chain, which this requires, gives you access
Mm-hmm.
to special
Yeah,
um,
you get a pseudo dragon, an
imp,
imp,
quasits, or sprites. I think
and
imp is one of the more common ones there. And let
I
me
think they have like poison, right? They've got like a poisonous stinger, but I don't think they have any ranged attacks. I don't think there is any familiar with a ranged attack, except for maybe a sprite. I don't know what sprites have.
uh
The only thing I know about sprites is that's one of the ways you can break the game is you get your
oh
what is it? You
yeah,
summon with Fae or whatever, and they
summon
cast
Fae.
fly
That
on the entire party.
doesn't really work rules as written, luckily, because you don't get to pick which things. But
Sure.
so imps don't get it. Do pseudo dragons don't get range. Quasits don't have flying, so a lot of people don't pick them. And they don't have range. They do have a scare move. That's cool. And then Sprite. Um, brought to you by Sprite. No. Sprites do have
Your
a
video has been
longbow.
claimed on YouTube.
Yeah, a longbow which has a +2 to hit. Oh, that's a long sword. Sorry. Um, the long sword has a +2 to hit and it deals 1 slashing damage. This is amazing.
Man, I'm so glad I can command my familiars to
But
attack.
the short bow has a +6 and it deals 1 piercing damage. But then there's a DC 10 con save or be poisoned, which no one is going to fail. But
Well, it does use your DC. That's
does
if
it?
the
It says
familiar
that?
forces a creature to make a saving throw, it uses
Ooh.
your
Okay, that's a
spell
lot
save
better.
DC.
That's sprites are now the jam. Like,
Sprites are now the jam.
it's also you're
Oh
thinking
man.
of pixies, by the way. The polymorph trick is pixies.
Ah, there it is.
As people go nuts in YouTube watching right now, like um, talisman protection thing.
I don't know, man. I just play arcane casters. Sorry, give me a break.
They get to add a D4 to a saving throw. That's cool. It should do that as written, but anyways. More talisman stuff. When the wearer of your talisman is hit by an attacker you can see within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction, deal psychic damage to the attacker equal to your proficiency bonus and push them away 10 feet. So I think the idea is like someone else is supposed to wear your talisman. And you're supposed to help them. You can cast Animate Dead without using a spell slot. Undying Servitude. I like that invocation. You want to be a Necromancer Warlock, which there should be more of.
Yeah, why aren't there Necromancer?
No
it's because they don't have any spells. That's why. Because Warlocks don't get to cast spells.
Which this gives you the ability to cast Animate Dead without a spell slot.
Once.
Big fan. Well, yeah, you know, I didn't say it was
well,
good.
I guess, so if you can cast Animate Dead without using a spell slot, it's still automatically going to be of the highest. It's going to be 5th level eventually, right? Because that's what Warlocks do. So that is pretty cool. That means you get a bunch of them.
Yeah. So I will say, nice. Reading through these, and we haven't even gotten to the Warlock subclasses.
Yeah.
But of these things, from what we've read, I would be real jazzed to play a Barbarian and a Warlock. I don't know that right now. I've been super excited by the other subclasses that we've seen, but I've got lots of ideas for a Barbarian or a Warlock that fit.
Yeah, I loved the Barbarian. I don't know if I could actually stomach playing a Barbarian, though. I'd get bored really quick. Do adore the Cleric subclasses. I'm a big fan of those, and I like the Fighter subclasses. And the Druid. I've never played a Druid before. These seem really cool.
I think you would like the Druid playstyle. I think they're up your alley.
So yeah, I definitely don't want to play. Sorry, go.
No. I'm about to transition. You don't want to play what?
Circle of the Moon. I wouldn't want to play Circle of the Moon for sure.
Yeah. It has a specific playstyle. It's very cool, but it's often, seen a lot.
Yeah.
And so wanting to do something different. I definitely would want to play like a Circle of the Land or Dreams or Shepherd or this Wildfire thing.
Wildfire looks cool. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, those look cool. Astral Self looks cool.
So we've got the Water Warlock here, the Fathomless, Plane of Water.
I mean, they saw how popular Ford was, and they're like, we got to get in on this.
That's true. There you go. Ukatoa. So we've got their expanded spell list. Looks fine. I'm not like, oh my goodness, that's amazing at anything. I mean, Cone of Cold is really cool. Bigby's Hand.
Oh man, they give him Summon Elemental, but you can only summon Water Elemental. Rough, yo. Oh gosh.
That is tough. Water Elementals are good ones to summon, but
it makes sense, but that is such a restriction. There's this spell that does 4 distinct things. You can use it for one of those.
Yeah, you get a fourth of the power of the spell.
Yeah,
sort of.
Jeez.
Yeah. Tentacles of the Deep. You summon a spectral tentacle that strikes at your foes as a bonus action. You create a 10-foot long tentacle at a point you can see within 60 feet of you, so far away. Man, I'm going to get serious Alawi vibes from this.
It's so cool.
The tentacle really cool. Lasts for a minute until you use this feature again to create another one. So there's no limit on it. There's a limit later. You create the tentacle, you can make a melee spell attack. This is all bonus action. It's awesome. On a hit, they take 1d8 cold damage, and its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. I love slows like that. Super cool. And when you reach 10th level, the damage increases to 2d8. As a bonus action, you can move the tentacle 30 feet and repeat the attack. That's really good. That's really good. Warlocks don't have much in the way of bonus action economy. There's not lots of things Warlocks are generally wanting to do with their bonus action outside of like moving their hex. So the ability to do this is pretty cool. You get some extra damage. I like it.
Yeah, I'm looking through hoping that you get to grapple with these tentacles, and it doesn't look
grasping tentacles.
What?
Oh, you learn the spell Evard's Black
Tentacles.
No,
you get Evard's Black Tentacles.
You get temp HP. Okay.
Great spell, fantastic spell.
Yeah, very thematic.
Evard's Black Tentacles is really good. Definitely fits the theme. And you can cast it once for free, so it's an extra spell.
Oh, love
Uh,
that.
yeah, but
Love that.
definitely you're summoning all these tentacles of the deep, and all they're doing is slapping people. That's very allowing because it's not krakeny,
It is
no grasping.
Guardian Coil. Interposing. The tentacle can interpose between you and another creature. I like that. Or another creature. So you can help
Yeah,
your
but it just
reaction.
reduces the damage by 1d8. That's
It
it.
does. It does. But that's something. That adds up. And at 10th level, it's 2d8. I think this damage, I would need to think about it a little more. But my first reaction is that damage is low, but then I remember it's free damage because it's a bonus action. Um, that's
In this case, it's a reaction.
It is, but again, what are you using your reactions for as a warlock? You're not casting leveled spells like shield or counterspell because you don't have the spell slots to do that.
Truth, truth.
Um, Generally speaking, unless you're a Hexblade, you're not making melee attacks. So what are you using, unless you have Warcaster and you're casting, again, a spell, so Eldritch Blast in this case, with your reaction, what are you doing with it?
That's fair. That's
Yeah,
very, very fair. Yeah, that would add up over time. It seems to me, and this may be the correct answer to balancing things out, but it seems like anytime I see an ability that does damage reduction, it's very small. It does not scale. We talked about a couple different abilities further back. The
yeah.
fighter gets something, I think, and it's like
Goliaths had the same
Mhm.
problem.
And I don't know why damage reduction doesn't scale. Resistance scales, right? That obviously scales. It used to be, in previous editions, you would do, you'd have resistance 5, right? Where you take 5 less damage on every attack. And that would get higher, but resistance 5 doesn't scale. So they make resistance scaling. But all other damage reductions that I can think of at least are it's like roll this one die, add this static number. And that's it. And the static number is usually, your ability score, and it's usually your important one. So it's +5 at level 4, and then you're done. It never
Hmm.
gets any stronger. But since that's everything, maybe that's the right answer. Maybe damage reduction is really strong or doesn't feel good or whatever. Maybe Guardian Coil, since you're using it every single turn, that 1 or 2d8 really adds up. I could definitely be wrong. But looking at it, it always makes me feel bad when I'm reading numbers and it's like, this ability gets to here, and this ability, you get to add this thing, and damage reduction is a d10 at level 1, and that's all it's ever going to be.
That's fair. Those are good points, and I'm sure there are counterpoints, but I can't think of them. I do
Oh man, did
really
you see
like
the 14th
Fathomless
level?
Plunge. I really like that
Yes!
ability. You and
That's
5 other
so
willing
cool.
creatures, which I don't know how I feel about that. That's basically saying like, hey, you don't get to have a party of 6 or larger, or
Yes,
of
yes,
7 or larger.
yeah,
But you and your party is how that
yeah.
should be worded. Vanish and then as an action, and then reappear a mile away in a body of water you have seen, pond size or larger. I love this. And you get to use it again after a short rest. I love this. Super
So cool.
cool.
Hmm.
Um, Very thematic. Get out of jail free card. Um, and you don't have to be touching these creatures. You just have to be within 30 feet of them. They don't have to be conscious, so you can like you and your buddies. Let's say you're going up against, I don't know, like a kraken. It's a really brutal fight. A bunch of them are dying. Some of them are swallowed. All these things. You don't have to see them. Oh, it says you have to see. Well, you make sure they're unswallowed, and then you just get out of jail. I like this a lot. Very
Yeah,
very cool.
super, super cool. It doesn't matter though; it's a 14th level ability, so you'll never get it.
14th is right on the cusp, but yeah, probably not. It's a boss fight ability. The genie. I feel like the Pact of the Genie has been around for a while in UA, and they do get different spell lists based on
Yeah,
which
that
type.
is
It's very complicated.
crazy.
um, Different spell levels. Yeah, they all get Wish as their ninth level spell. That is incredibly thematic for being a genie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 14th level limited Wish. Okay, this is actually kind of interesting. You
Oh,
entry.
they gave
They
Limited
get
wish.
limited wish. As an action, you can speak your desire to your genie's vessel, requesting the effect of one spell that is 6th level or lower, and its casting time of 1 action. I like that.
That's so cool. What a great ability.
Wait, and you can't use this feature again until
For
you have
1d4
finished
long
1d4
rest.
long rest. That's a really interesting mechanic. Like, you can't use it every
That's
day,
brilliant.
probably. It's neat. I haven't seen a lot of things like that. I like it.
I love it. Did you notice Genie's Vessel, bottle respite, excuse me, as an action, you can magically vanish and enter your vessel, which remains in the space that you left. It's an extra dimensional space. The interior is appointed with cushions and low tables. You can hear around the area. You can remain in there up to a number of hours equal to twice your proficiency bonus. Like you can pack yourself into a genie bottle. What a great way to get snuck in somewhere.
That's
It's like
fantastic.
the problem where the whole party jumps into the portable hole and the rogue sneaks them in. Well, you could do that now legally.
Yeah,
At least your
great.
warlock can. Awesome.
All right, man. It's time. We're nearing the end here. It's wizard time.
Oh man, the first thing I gotta say is not as many spells. It doesn't look like, but
They
lots of
already
ritual
get
spells.
lots of spells.
Well, we
They
should
already
get
have the
even more
biggest.
spells.
When you say
Yeah, we
we,
should.
I don't like that they get augury. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
that's
well.
not
Okay,
thematic.
so here's the thing.
They're
It
only
doesn't.
divination.
Yes, but there's so few divination spells.
That's fair.
There are so few divination spells.
So when this is saying divination ritual, does that mean? Well, it's probably written here. A spell's school of magic is noted. Oh, okay. So it's not saying only divination wizards have access to it.
It's just letting you know
Yeah,
what
I don't like
schools
that.
of magic have been buffed.
I'm fine with only divination wizards having access to augury. I'm not fine with evocation wizards having access to augury.
Yeah, there's just no.
And speak
There's
of
no.
dead, don't like that.
Yeah, I agreed. But there's no like what's the word? Pretense. There's nothing that's ever done that before. There's never been spells that are only open to certain types of wizards. That's
In
not
5th edition.
Correct.
That
Well,
is true.
I don't think at 3.5 they had that either. I don't believe.
Yeah, in 3.5, I thought you could only take. You had to pick like 2 subclasses.
If you're a
something.
specialist wizard, you pick a school to specialize in, and you cannot learn any spells from 2 schools of magic. So you have to pick 2 schools of magic, and you are forbidden from learning any spells from those schools.
Fine.
But in exchange, you get 1 extra spell per spell level of your chosen school. So a huge sacrifice in utility, huge benefits in power. Really interesting trade-off. Oh, I haven't looked yet. Okay.
Cantrip formulas. When you have learned the formula for cantrips, and when you finish a long rest, you can replace a wizard cantrip with another cantrip from the wizard spell list.
Again, cantrips are supposed to be this thing that you've got down. It's cool that only the wizard gets it. I would say you get 1 cantrip that you can replace. Like you have 1 slot, 1 cantrip slot that you can put anything into. This allows you to swap all of your cantrips over time. Like I take 3 long rests. I learned 3 new cantrips. I would say there is 1 cantrip that could be after you take a long rest. It could be any wizard cantrip that you want it to be. That's how I would write that. But that's a little more confusing than what is written.
No, I like that it's wizard specific. I that is cool to me.
Yeah, agreed. Disappointing. No other. I guess. Yeah. No specialty wizard things other than that. I was hoping for more, but that's okay.
So you have looked at Bladesinger before in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and you didn't like it. Let's see if we like it a little more this time. You get light armor.
I'm excited.
I think they have changed it a little bit. You get performance and 1 melee weapon. So basically you can fight, as opposed to going in there with armor, with no armor and like a stick.
Speaking of no armor and a stick, can I just say the wizard in my brother's campaign that I'm a player in, the wizard who died had 10 dexterity and didn't know mage armor as a spell. He had shield, and I think that was it. I also learned that the sorcerer in this campaign has 13 dexterity, knows Mage Armor and no other defensive spells, and didn't cast Mage Armor when going into battle. I had
Listen,
words with both
just
of those
because your
players.
character has 20 intelligence doesn't mean you do.
Oh
Um,
man.
so
Ooh,
you get to do
talk about
blade
surviving.
singing if you're not wearing medium or heavy armor or using a shield.
So light armor
Yep.
proficiency basically is slightly worse than, like, it's not as good as mage armor, right? Unless I'm trying to think, the best light armor
Is it
is it a 12
12?
or is it 13?
It's one
It's
of
got to
those
be
two.
13. It's got to be
It's
13
12 plus
because
dex.
oof. Okay. So it's worse than mage armor, but obviously you don't have to cast it. So it's saving you
A
a
spell
first
slot.
level spell per day, and that's really it.
Yeah. And I
In
don't
exchange
love
for
that blade
-1
singing
armor.
locks you out of medium or heavy armor. Like, okay, so does this restrict you
Wait, what
to,
do you mean? Does
to
it lock you out?
you can invoke Blade Song provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy
Ah,
armor or
okay,
using a shield.
okay.
I don't love that. Um, I don't think. Yeah, so looking back at the lore, you are allowed to be a non-elf practitioner of Blade Song, which is great. Racial restrictions on classes, I think, is dumb. It's not the 70s. Um, you use a bonus action to start your Blade Song, which lasts a minute. It ends early if you're incapacitated, or if you put on armor. Or if you use two hands to make an attack. Man, they really want you to be a bad fighter. Um, you can also dismiss Blade Song at any time, no action. While it's active, you gain a bonus to AC equal to your intelligence modifier.
That's
So
awesome.
that's
So
really
now we're
good.
in the AC game.
Yep.
I mean, now I get to be a monk, except I also get light armor.
Yeah,
So I'm basically, that gives me,
it's
while
pretty good.
Blade Song is active, I get 2 more AC than comparable classes like the monk and the barbarian. That's really cool.
Pretty good. Your walking speed increases by 10. You have advantage on acrobatics checks. You gain a bonus to con saves to maintain concentration. The bonus equals your intelligence modifier. So
Very
there's that
nice.
flat
There's
bonus that
that
stacks
doubling
with war
up.
song. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why they
War
did that here,
caster.
but didn't do that with the warlock. That's
I don't
interesting.
know. You can use this feature a number of
They
times
get
equal to your
extra
proficiency
attack.
bonus. I actually like Blade Song. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pretty good.
Very cool
Extra
ability.
attack at sixth level, one level slower, and you can cast a cantrip in place of one of those attacks. Which, by the way, you can cast Booming Blade or Green Flame Blade. That's really good. Um, at 10th level, you can direct your magic to absorb damage. So it feels like you're not very good at offense, but you're pretty tanky in some ways. When you take
You're an AC
damage,
tank for
yeah,
sure.
but at 10th level when you take damage, you can use a reaction to expend one spell slot and reduce the damage equal to 5 times the
Jeez.
spell slot's level.
And there goes the reason to be an abjuration wizard. Like, other than what's it, proficiency bonus on dispel magic and counterspell. Like, they're this that's a better ward than the abjuration wizard gets.
And
That's
here's
stupid.
and here's the damage at 14th level. You can add your int mod to damage
I like
to melee
how
attacks.
late that is, because I
Yeah,
don't need to be a full ranking wizard with access to all the wizard spells and getting extra damage on weapon attacks, especially when I can
yeah.
attack twice, and replace one of them with a cantrip, because your cantrip and your attacks are scaling with level, right? Because you get your extra attack at 6th level, and your cantrips are supposed to make up for the fact that you don't get extra attacks.
So
That's why it.
I almost feel like, shoot, man, I almost feel like I wouldn't ever use my sword. I almost feel like I would want to turn my blade song on, be able to have a high AC and better speed and concentration, and just be casting my wizard
Yeah,
spells.
yeah.
The extra attack, there's no like there's basically what I'm seeing is there's no incentive for me to use sword and spell well together. It's just that like if I wanted to use my sword, I wouldn't be total garbage at it,
Hmm.
and I get light armor and I am tankier, but that's not requiring me
Yeah,
to use a sword.
that's really fair. I think that's a really fair point.
Mhm.
Just that in and of itself, I'm convinced. I think that this is not the right way to make you into a fighting a
Yeah.
fighting wizard.
I think if you want to be a Gish, I think Eldritch Knight still takes the cake. I think it has some of the better manifestations of spell and sword because you can be. I mean, this is so really it's just a question of which one do you want to be good at and which one do you want to be okay at. This makes you
Yeah.
okay at sword and good at spell. Eldritch Knight is the other way around, but there's no reason you should be good at both.
Okay, so here's a really cool approach. There's a class in 3.5. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a combination of fighting and mage. And as you level up in the class, you slowly gain proficiency with heavier armor. So it starts with light and then it goes to medium, and I think it ends up at heavy. But on top of that, one of its like key abilities is you can cast a spell as a part of an attack, and anyone you hit with that attack, the spell affects them as well, right?
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And at first, it's limited to a single target, and the like capstone ability is everything that you hit on that turn gets hit by that spell. So like I cast, like Scorching Ray, and I hit a guy, and I can hit him with the attack, and now all the damage of Scorching Ray goes through, right? And then later, super powerful, I can hit my full Scorching Ray on everybody, in this case, 2 people, right? I think that's a really good way to encourage a wizard martial combination, because you're getting more strength out of your spells by hitting things, but it also puts you in way more danger. And you're dependent on, I have to be good at hitting things. I really do need to have a high dex because I better be good at hitting this thing. Otherwise, I'm going to miss and waste my spell.
Yeah.
Because I can't just use my intelligence to hit something. I think that would have been probably a better way to go about this. I think you're right. This makes you so tanky, it gives me no reason to actually get in there and attack. Other than, hey, if I'm going to be casting a cantrip to attack, I might as well get an extra weapon attack in as well.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got Order the Scribes here next. Wizardly Quill is kind of neat, flavorful, really interesting description. Makes you better at
It's a
transcribing.
tiny quill.
Oh, there we go. It can be destroyed because it doesn't say HP. Makes you better at copying stuff into your book. It's not really sexy, but it's neat. You can erase stuff written with a quill. That's cool.
In what place ever has the time it takes to copy a spell into your spellbook mattered? I cannot think of a single time that has ever mattered. If it reduced the gold cost, make that like, most wizards, their school of magic costs half as much.
It does.
Oh,
the
did I
quill
miss
doesn't
it?
require ink.
Well, but you also have to have fancy paper. You have to have fancy paper and ink.
So maybe I would argue that this halves it because you would need the fancy ink.
And that would be cool, right? This guy gets to copy down spells from scrolls for half price, whereas specialist wizards, they get to do, just their school. This guy gets everybody.
Yeah.
That would be super cool.
And then you have your Awakened Spellbook. Makes your spellbook kind of better. It's your spellcasting focus. What?
And once again, dude, why be a sorcerer when you can be a wizard? Why should I spend sorcery points on meta magic when a wizard could just be like, oh no, I could just deal whatever type of damage I want whenever I want?
Oh, that is pretty
my
good.
Goodness.
Temporarily
Ridiculous.
place the damage type.
It's just like the sorcerers get the protective spell where creatures automatically succeed on their saving throw, and the evocation wizards get, they automatically succeed on their saving throw and also take no damage. Like those, a sorcerer casts Fireball, spends sorcery points, and every ally they hit takes half damage. The wizard, for free, always misses his allies. Like, not even comparable. Oh man, that's why sorcerers, like, they have a smaller selection of spells. They don't get to know as many spells. They don't get to cast as many spells because the wizards, I'm pretty sure, recover more spell slots than the sorcerers could, even if they spent all of their points on recovering slots. And to top it all off, we're going to give the wizard the same abilities as the sorcerer, but just make him better. Just make him better. Oh my goodness. And a ritual spell that happens automatically. I love this class. This seems busted. I adore it. Wait, what? They can't lose their spellbook?
It's pretty good, right?
Dude. Okay, first of all, I don't know if any DM, I'm sure somewhere in the universe, a DM has done something and said, I'm sorry, wizard, your spellbook is gone.
That's really mean, but yeah.
I'm sure it's happened, but I cannot ever imagine doing that to a player. Even if I realized that would be the consequence, it would be so heart-shattering that all of the abilities that I've spent gathering over it's like telling a player saying, okay, so you suffered from pretty serious head trauma, roll a d20 and roll it like 4 times, and whatever numbers you rolled, you lose the abilities you got at that level. It's like it's just awful. So as amazing and overpowered, quote unquote overpowered as this would be compared to other wizards, no wizard creates copies of their spellbook. I say no. I'm sure
you're
people
just
do it, but
stuck
it's just
with whatever spells you have prepared.
oh man. It's like it's so expensive to make copies. It's cheaper to make a copy than it is to transcribe, but not by a lot. Oh man, yeah, it should cost like silvers to make a copy of a spellbook. Maybe then I would threaten to have people's spellbooks disappear. But oh gosh. All right, let's see. Another tiny spectral object.
It's intangible, does not occupy space. Conjure this little spellbook. You can see in here it has dark vision. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if you were in the tiny spectral mind's space instead of your own space. That's kind of interesting. Touch spells, you can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Again, I love that mechanic is in there, that scaling mechanic.
Yeah.
You regain all expended uses at the end of a long rest. As a bonus action, you can cause Spectral Mind to hover up to 30 feet in an unoccupied space that you or it can see. You can pass through creatures but not objects. And then just ways to get rid of it.
And another example of this, once you conjure it, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of any level to conjure it again.
Man. Yeah, these are just causing my eyes to cross because these are just such long.
Yeah, it's like that's a really long description for something that's basically I can summon a thing that I can cast from its perspective instead of mine.
Yeah.
That's all that is. It's the same thing as familiars, except it's not limited to touch spells and it can't die.
It's like 6 paragraphs to describe that.
Huge amount of words. I think that could have been boiled down.
10th level. Finish the long rest. Create a magic scroll.
What? You can make scrolls?
That's pretty cool. 1st or 2nd level, and have a casting time of an action.
But it's counted as a level higher than normal.
Ooh, I like that.
You can cast a spell. Okay, I was thinking it would let you give that to someone else. That it's not really a scroll.
Yeah, but it sort of is. Does it disappear? Or when you finish your next long rest?
Yeah, what's the point of this? What? So basically what it says is, if you prepare a spell like you would in 3.5, then that spell will be 1 level higher than normal. What a ridiculous ability. Now, it also says you are good at crafting spell scrolls. Sure, that's great. That makes sense. But what is this?
Yeah, that's very strange. I would let it work exactly as written, but you can give it to your allies.
The one thing about that is concentration.
Oh, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Do you burn a spell slot? I don't think it ever costs you a spell slot. So this is actually pretty good.
So you get a free 1st or 2nd level spell that's cast at 2nd or 3rd level. What would I put in there that would make that worth it?
Hey, you get mage armor, but it doesn't cost you anything.
No, because you want to take advantage of the fact that it's a level higher, right? So I'm
You could,
thinking.
or you cast, or a thing that's just a spell slot tax. Let me look in my spell book and
But it's like first and
see.
second level. Like this is a 10th level ability. You've got unlimited first and second level spells at 10th level.
Sort of, but what are some things that like could get better noticeably as you get higher level? Um,
Mm,
man, I don't know.
you get
Major
like a free
Mizane.
identify.
Yeah, maybe.
Wait, wait,
Oh,
wait,
no,
wait, wait, wait.
one
Hang on, hang on,
action.
hang
One
on.
action, so no identify.
I thought identify is an action.
I thought
Yeah.
it was a minute.
Oh, it is a minute. I'm a liar. Oof.
Direct
I thought
spread.
identify was an action.
Um,
Okay, okay. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a spell you have prepared.
really?
Yes, it
Okay,
doesn't
now
say
this
that.
gets a lot more useful now that we are,
Yes, yes.
actually reading how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, you finish a long rest. You touch your wizardly quill to a blank piece of paper, and one spell from your spell book, so just a spell is copied onto the scroll. Nowhere along the way does it cost you a spell slot. The chosen spell must be a first or second level, and the casting time is one action. And then it counts as one level higher than normal. You cast the spell from the scroll by reading it as an action. Nobody else can cast it, and it lasts until you cast it or finish a long rest. Yeah, you don't have to have it prepared. That's pretty nice.
That is very lovely.
You do have to decide it like during the day. So like you can't come across the situation and then
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I need this." But you could
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, I don't know." Um, you could say
Looking at hold person, invisibility. Those are really nice.
Arcane Lock. You've got a DM who's really after that spell book because you're super into it, and so you carry along a chest with you, and it is always arcane locked. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but that costs 50 gold.
Oh, does it? Never mind.
Yeah.
I
Isn't that
well no. So hang on,
lame?
hang on. No, 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 no. It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Oh, it
Not if you
doesn't?
use it through this. Not if you use it through this, because this doesn't
Does it
say
say?
it does nothing about components, and when you're casting it through a spell scroll, there's no components.
It doesn't. I
That
wonder if that's a mistake, if it's
I don't
not.
know, but I'm gonna
Okay,
utilize
what
it
are some spells with
with
expensive
costly
components?
components.
Arcane Lock is one. I don't know if there are any others.
Identify is the pearl.
Yeah, but that's a single cost thing. If you know
Hold
the spell,
person's
you've
not
already
bad
got it.
because you can target an extra person.
And
But it,
invisibility, same for that too.
okay, that's pretty
Right?
good.
Isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh,
Ray of Enfeeblement? No. Skyrite.
Continual flame. That's the other cost one.
There are some bad ones.
Dude, an wizard
Arcane
that can
Lock.
actually cast Arcane Lock. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 25 gold. Like I love that spell, but my
Yeah.
gosh, it's like at lower levels. Like okay, I was playing a wizard that wanted to be a rogue. That was the idea. I had a lot of like sneaky stealth things, and then the DM dropped us in the desert, and that's the only place I ever was. So I didn't get to use any of it, which was disappointing. But the idea of sneaking through an area and like locking a door behind me with Arcane Lock and then using knock to get into places, super cool. Who needs to be a rogue? I can just use magic. Um, but Arcane Lock has a cost, and that's super lame. And it's a lot. It's 25 gold at level. What is that? A second level spell? So at level 3, 25 gold's a lot of money. So that's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So of course, you're 10th level when you get this ability. But yeah, I gotta say, being able to cast a spell without components, not having it prepared, plus the bonus of it going up one level, super cool. Like that ability. This is a really cool subclass.
Yeah, big fan.
14th level, advantage on all Arcana checks. What? If you take damage while your spellbook's mind is manifested, you can prevent all of the damage to you by using your reaction to dismiss the spectral mind using its magic to save yourself. Then roll 3d6. The spellbook temporarily loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to that roll or higher.
What?
What?
Man, I feel like this whole subclass is just like really cool ideas and desperately needs an editor.
Oh, wait. Until you finish 1d6 long rests, you are incapable of casting the lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or in another spellbook. After you finish the required number of rests, the spells reappear in the spellbook. Once you use this reaction, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. I don't even know why they'd throw that on there. You gotta give up spells
You could choose
completely?
which ones to give up, but yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's 3d6. What's the average of that? 3, 6, 9, 10.5? So you're giving that's a lot of spells. Like unless you're giving up,
I
you're
know,
you're
yeah.
preparing your favorite, sixth, seventh, eighth level spells. So you don't want to give any of those up. So they got to be lower level, which means you got to lose a lot of them. That's crazy. What a crazy ability. This whole subclass is bonkers.
Yeah. It's not great. In
I
terms
like
of
it.
in terms of wording and everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would definitely, I would love to play this class. I would definitely want a rewrite of it. Um, that 14th level ability, man, super interesting, really interesting idea. But how often am I going to be taking a hit where I'm like, look, I'm going to drop to 0, but instead I could cripple myself for days. Oh
I
man,
could
what a
cripple myself
cool.
for days. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting book for sure. Even with just the subclasses. Man.
Well, this has been quite the journey. I can't wait to do this. Just read through the rest of this book.
It
We're on
is.
page
So I think
78.
we're gonna pause
Yeah.
here. This will be the end of this video because this is getting pretty long, and we will go through the rest, the last like I think it's the last third of this book, and we will go ahead and do that later. I'm going to end this though, and we will jump into that. Thank you so much for going through this again with me, Jimmy. This has been big fun. We're
This was
going
a
to
lot of fun.
jump into continuing this, but thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.